A violent Detroit gang has been dealt a major blow.
Yeah, they're known as the Hustle Boys, and in just a few hours, they'll go before a judge.
A 4-year investigation involving state, county, and Detroit police revealed. The FBI also says that this gang was based out of a Detroit home at 7 Mile and Hoover, that the Hustle Boys formed 6 or 7 years ago. And when they started, they were promoting events at nightclubs, but they eventually started dealing drugs. Of the 10 accused gang members, 8 are in custody and face a judge in federal court today. The other 2 are expected to turn themselves in. They were all charged with conspiracy and dealing drugs.
In November 2012, a jury found Gaskin, a member of Detroit's notorious Hustle Boys gang, guilty of participating in a drug conspiracy and possessing illegal drugs with intent to distribute. His crimes didn't stop there. On Tuesday, Gaskin pleaded guilty to witness tampering, admitting he had threatened the lives of a witness, the witness's child, and the child's mother before his drug trial. For this, he received an additional 46-month sentence to be served concurrently with his 30-year drug trafficking sentence. Evidence revealed that from 2007 to 2011, Gaskin and other Hustle Boys members trafficked drugs from Detroit to Ohio and West Virginia. The gang used a house on Hamburg Street in Detroit to storing drugs and stash firearms. Their operations extended beyond Detroit, with members trading drugs for firearms, further fueling violence in the city. Gaskin and 9 others were indicted in 2011, but most of his co-defendants pleaded guilty before trial and received substantial sentences.
Your investigation came
in a major federal crackdown. 5 members of the young and scandalous street gang have been indicted on charges including arson and racketeering and other violent crimes, exposing their decade-long reign of terror in Detroit's Baltimore neighborhood. The indictment, unsealed on Friday, details how the gang, also known as Young and Scandalous, allegedly sought to dominate the local drug trade through violence and intimidation, leading to the deaths of at least 3 people. The indictment describes numerous violent acts by the gang, including a 2010 arson at a Marathon gas station, the 2013 deletion of TW during a robbery, and the 2015 deletion of B at the Victory Inn Motel. Prosecutors allege the gang used social media to boast about their crimes, enhancing their reputation and deterring witnesses from cooperating with law enforcement. The Young and Scandalous gang's violent grip on Baltimore has left residents living in fear, enduring frequent shootings and robberies. This indictment is part of ongoing efforts to dismantle Detroit's most dangerous gangs and restore safety to the city's neighborhoods. In a major crackdown on organized crime, a federal grand jury has indicted 8 members of a Detroit-based fraud ring known as the Free Band Gang on charges including conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, and aggravated identity theft. Attorney Matthew Schneider details a 3-year scheme that led to millions in losses. The defendants Traiano Adams, Anthony Adams, Devin Simmons, Atif Brown, Oda Williams, Danico Adams, Rodney Gist, and Tyan Jackson allegedly used stolen credit card information to create cloned cards. They then traveled across the U.S., targeting Walmart stores to purchase large amounts of gift cards, which they sold for cash in Michigan. One notable incident involved 2 defendants making over $100,000 in fraudulent purchases at 10 Walmart stores in just 9 hours. Attorney Schneider emphasized the group's calculated operations and Michigan's ongoing efforts to combat identity theft. Postal Inspection Service, Secret Service, and Walmart's Global Investigations team were instrumental in uncovering the full scope of the fraud.
An undercover agent from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms is speaking out for the first time, revealing how the agency took down the vicious street gang in Northwest Detroit known as Band Crew. This gang was so bold they committed their crimes knowing they were on video and even flooded social media with photos showing them with deadly weapons and wads of cash.
Tonight, the leaders of that gang sitting in prison.
Looking at video of Band Crew gang members in action, a ruthless crew that ran Detroit's northwest side until the feds teamed up with local police to take them down. They specialized in taking over gas stations. A few years ago, they were so brazen, they robbed customers and shot at rival gang members, all on video. They knew surveillance cameras were rolling. They simply did not care.
To not only participate in a shooting, but then to remain at a gas station at an extended period of time after the shooting had occurred, where the gas attendant is calling 911 and they're sitting there contemplating, well, should we get a drink?
8 members of the band crew, a street gang in northwest Detroit, have been indicted on charges of attempted deletion, robbery, and shootings as part of the Detroit One Initiative, a collaborative effort between law enforcement and the community to reduce violent crime in the city. The indictment reveals that Band Crew, an alliance of smaller gangs like Constantly Making Hundreds, CMH, and Young and Crispy, YNC, claimed territory in northwest Detroit, using graffiti to assert their dominance. Members engaged in violent crimes, including assaults, home invasions, and robberies, to defend their turf and uphold the gang's reputation. Among those indicted are Corey DeAndre Mapp, 22, facing charges of RICO conspiracy and assault with a dangerous weapon, and Alexander Tianti Johnson, 20, charged with RICO conspiracy. The charges represent a significant step in dismantling the gang's operations and reducing violence in Detroit.
The Get Money Gang. Take a look at your screen. Investigators say these are the 15 gang members who are facing charges after the sweep. Investigators say members of the Get Money Gang have been linked to several drug trafficking, gun use, and other violent crimes around the city.
Butler-Tarkington neighborhood has gone 190 days without a murder. The folks here are pleased with this morning's arrests. These are the mugshots of the suspects. It's not clear how many of the crimes they are accused of committing actually happened in Butler-Tarkington, because their home base was to the north at the old Creekwood Apartments and this address at 6407 Scenic Court. Back in August, 32-year-old Clarence Havard III was gunned down in the 300 block of North Bernard Avenue. No one has been charged in that crime.
Law enforcement officials report that 15 members of the Get Money Gang have been charged. The gang has been linked to a series of crimes in the area, and authorities have been working to reduce violence and crime through a coordinated effort involving the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, MPD, the FBI, and other agencies. The gang operates primarily in 2 locations on the north side of Indianapolis: the Creekwood Apartments near West 71st Street and North Michigan Road, and 6470 Scenic Court. The 15 members face various charges, including dealing drugs, corrupt business influence, and criminal gang activity. Authorities used rap videos posted on YouTube as evidence in their investigation. One song, titled "Go to War," featured lyrics that referenced the gang's activities and included depictions of weapons and threats of violence. Police stated that these were not just empty threats, as the individuals featured in the videos are now either under arrest or wanted for various criminal activities. The Butler-Tarkington community has experienced significant violence, including the deletion of 10-year-old Deshaun Swanson, which officials believe was the unintended result of gang-related activity. This incident was part of a broader pattern of violence that included 4 homicides in the neighborhood. Residents and community leaders expressed relief at the recent arrests, hoping that it signals a turning point for the area. The group has also been linked to other incidents, such as a shooting on the downtown canal in 2012 and the 2014 shooting of cab driver Ricardo White by alleged gang member Landon Tompkins.
Brett, police say the gang 2500 is connected to a majority of the shootings in 2014, but now there aren't as many active gang members. So these arrests will have an impact, but it may not be as big as you think.
Since 2014, the street gang 2500 has been on Fort Wayne PD's radar.
2500 was very prominent. We're one of the 2 main instigators in the violence of 2014.
The gang started in 2012, and a shooting in 2014 launched the FBI's investigation. 4 members of that gang arrested, and there's still a handful of them out there. But Sergeant Hensler says the group has since quieted down.
U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Indiana, David Kapp, announced Thursday afternoon that multiple members of a Fort Wayne street gang are facing various racketeering charges. According to a press release, an 18-count indictment has been filed against 4 individuals associated with the 2500 gang, which originated in the 2500 block of Caroline Street and is linked to a Bloomington gang known as the Grit Gang. The indictment accuses the 2500 gang of conspiracy to commit deletion, attempted deletion, and drug trafficking. It specifically alleges the group's involvement in the attempted deletions of 2 rival gang members on October 4, 2014 in Fort Wayne, as well as an attempted deletion of a 3rd individual who is not affiliated with any rival gang. Since that incident, law enforcement has been actively working to dismantle the 2500 gang. Cap emphasized that this is the first time the federal racketeering statutes have been applied against street gangs in Fort Wayne, and he assured that it would not be the last. Gang activity has been linked to numerous crimes in Fort Wayne and the surrounding communities. In response, the Fort Wayne Police Department has increased its resources within the Gang and Violent Crimes Unit following a record number of deletions in Allen County in 2016.
At noon, 5 men accused of being linked to a federal drug investigation and opening fire on police make their first court appearance today. Adrian Bullock, Richard Grundy, William Gammon, and Ronnie Batts were in court for their initial hearing. Police say the group, along with another man, Lance Hatcher, were arrested after an ATF surveillance operation last week. Police tried to make a traffic stop last week after watching the men coming and going from a house in the 300 block of West 38th Street. And that's when court records say there was a police chase and shots were fired. Bullets hit a family's home across the street. A number of supporters for the men who are now behind bars showed up in court today and voiced their own opinions.
U.S. Attorney Josh Minkler celebrated a life sentence for Richard Grundy III, but admitted that justice didn't happen overnight. Following a series of 2014, Grundy and others were charged with murder in Marion County, but the case fell apart, allowing Grundy to plead guilty to minor drug charges and declare his innocence in 2017.
They was trying to make something fit that wasn't there.
Grundy beat those charges, and he held a press conference and bragged about it.
Yet just a few months later, in November 2017, federal agents raided a series of homes around Indianapolis and charged Grundy with importing. More than 20 people were convicted in that case, culminating with Grundy's life sentence.
In October 2015, prosecutors announced charges against 11 alleged members of the Grundy crew as part of an investigation into what they characterized as a large-scale drug trafficking organization. The criminal charges outlined a multi-state operation that reportedly moved significant quantities of drugs from Phoenix to Indianapolis. Several members of the group, including Grundy, were already facing separate charges related to dealing and conspiracy to distribute, stemming from a January 29, 2015 incident involving a police pursuit during which shots were fired at officers. The charges also included multiple counts of deletion and conspiracy to commit deletion, related to at least 7 incidents since 2013. Despite these accusations, prosecuting the Grundys has proven challenging. In April 2016, prosecutors dropped 4 deletion charges against Grundy after a key witness was found to have misled investigators about her identity. The witness, who initially identified herself as Portia Harris, provided testimony under this false identity and received financial assistance from the Department of Justice. Upon discovery of the deception, it was revealed that the real Portia Harris had no involvement in the case, and the witness received over $6,000 before the truth came to light. Other witnesses have been reluctant to testify or have not come forward at all, complicating the prosecution's efforts. This individual has considerable influence, said a source familiar with the family. He could reach people, even those who may not be directly involved. John H. Means, who authorities described as the Grundy crew's alleged enforcer, similarly avoided conviction for his alleged involvement in 2 2014 incidents. Prosecutors believe that Grundy had instructed Means to target 4 individuals: Tyrese Dorsey, William Davis, Carlos Jefferson, and Julius Douglas. Despite the charges, Means was acquitted in a retrial concerning the incidents involving Jefferson and Douglas and had charges dropped in the Dorsey and Davis case due to a lack of sufficient evidence. The Grundy family's alleged activities and the subsequent challenges in securing convictions illustrate the complexities and difficulties that law enforcement and prosecutors face in addressing organized crime.
The notorious gang operating in Indianapolis is now out of business this evening following one of the biggest crime sweeps in our city that has ever had.
Police say that this area you see behind me, 42nd and Post, is the main turf for the gang that's been taken down and put out of business. And one of the suspected leaders is still has yet to be arrested. Wednesday afternoon, federal agents continued to look for William Brown, aka Jeezy, one of the suspected gang members operating in the Circle City for years. Operation Smoke Show started after the suspected gang members posted photos like this one on social media. The pictures show thousands in cash, including a stack of $100 bills. Chopper 13 recorded the police helicopter as the task force served citywide search and arrest warrants. Here are just some of the suspected gang members taken into custody during Operation Smoke Show.
The Wednesday bust of the block burners revealed startling details of the Indianapolis gang. On social media, they posed for photographs with firearms and large amounts of cash, court documents said. On the streets, they openly talked about drug dealing. But perhaps most unnerving is what could be described as a criminal enterprise development league, an affiliated gang for people ages 18 to 23. The FBI's Safe Streets Gang Task Force began investigating the block burners in late 2014, but court documents say the gang has been operating in the community for more than a decade. In 2004, former members of Four Deuce, an Indianapolis gang centralized at East 42nd Street and Post Road, founded the block burners and primarily operate on the city's northeast side. The block burners are described in court documents as a violent, highly structured gang consisting of both male and female members. The gang also has a sub-element for members 18 to 23 known as the 2X Gang, or 2TG. The group of younger members is named for Dominique 2X Jenkins, a high-ranking member of the block burners deleted in January 2013, court documents said. His brother Damon Smith, aka Dum, 19, established 2TG in his honor. Despite the age difference, the 2TG members operated in step with the block burners. The fresh recruits engaged in the same kind of violent activity as the older bangers with the hope of moving the gang's overall drug enterprise forward. Investigators have assessed the block burners as the largest violent criminal gang operating in the city, court documents said. About 90 members have been identified by police. Since their inception, the block burners have claimed areas from Post Road East to German Church Road and from East 21st Street North to East 56th Street. They specialize in violent crime, drug dealing, and illegal firearms, court documents said. To learn more about the block burners drug operation, police used confidential informants and undercover agents to conduct more than 24 controlled purchases with the gang, court documents said. Wiretaps also were placed on the phones of 5 members to gain additional insight and identify roles within the organization. Members Fred Davidson, 32, Daryl Stennis, 26, David Williams, 36, and Aaron Garrett, aka Nanny, 22, were described in court documents as suppliers for other members. Monitored conversations also revealed Davidson making trips to California to buy for distribution in Indianapolis, documents said. In mid-May, Davidson was caught on security footage at a Crenshaw, California post office mailing a package intended for Brown, court documents said. After a drug-detecting dog alerted police to the package, a warrant was obtained and more than 680 grams were found inside the box. Suppliers such as Stennis seem to take pride in the potency of their product, court documents indicate. Stennis often called on addicts to serve as testers and asked the users to rate the power of the drug on a 10-point scale. During an April 27 phone call with the dealer he supplied, Stennis asked how a frequent tester known as Cal was enjoying his latest batch, court documents said. Stennis was pleased to hear that the drug nearly deleted Cal, and that the tester's lips turned blue and skin went pale after taking a hit. Face-to-face encounters between informants and block burners dealers gave investigators a glimpse at the level of violence gang members were willing to commit, even against each other. On May 7, a controlled buy was set up with Tremaine Tatum, 22, court documents said. Tatum was supposed to meet an informant around 2:30 p.m. at the Brentwood Apartments at 42nd and Post, but the 2TG member never showed. The informant eventually bought 2 grams from Smith for $200, but moments later, the undercover agent waiting nearby heard screaming, court documents said. The informant told the undercover source that after the deal with Smith was done, Tatum arrived and put a pistol to Smith's head, court documents said. Tatum told Smith, "Give me my bread," and Smith quickly handed over the $200. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter accounts associated with the gang were closely monitored. Investigators looked into the employment and income history of gang members posing with stacks of cash to confirm suspicions that the money was obtained illegally. After nearly a year of gathering information, 525 law enforcement officers from throughout the Midwest served 22 federal and state warrants at 32 different locations during the sting, dubbed Operation Smoke Show. The bust netted drugs, guns, and more than $53,000 in cash. Federal prosecutors have charged 9 Indianapolis men allegedly connected to a group called the Mob in connection with 24 pharmacy robberies across Indiana and Kentucky. The 31-page indictment, unsealed on Tuesday, outlines the defendants' alleged involvement in a series of 23 robberies at CVS pharmacies in the Indianapolis area and one in Louisville, Kentucky, between December 2014 and June 2016. The indictment claims the group stole thousands of prescriptions, which were then resold on the streets of Indianapolis. Attorney Josh Minkler stated that the group also recruited juveniles, referred to as peons, to carry out the robberies on their behalf. The indictment also highlighted social media activity by alleged members of the Mob, where they discussed possessing drugs and firearms and made references to gang membership, adherence to a code of silence, and the consequences of snitching. One post, dated December 25, 2014, warned against cooperating with authorities, stating, "Don't get deleted for giving names. All you informants are going to have to rest in peace." The document further alleges that the men were involved in a shooting incident in October 2015 during a dispute over the distribution of stolen drugs. Although the indictment does not name the victim, the details match the circumstances surrounding the deletion of 19-year-old Malik Perry in the Butler-Tarkington neighborhood. Prosecutors indicated that the individual responsible for Perry's deletion was not named in the adult indictment, suggesting the involvement of one of the group's juvenile members. The Mob is said to have operated primarily in the near north side of Indianapolis, including the Crown Hill, Butler-Tarkington, and Martindale-Brightwood neighborhoods.
Camera video shows a police chase through a community near Detroit last October. It ended with a suspect from Tampa in jail, accused of carjacking, kidnapping, tying up, and torturing a man. Investigators would eventually charge another Tampa man in connection with the case, Xavier Gardner.
Put your hands behind your back!
At the time, this may have seemed like an isolated incident, but federal investigators say it wasn't at all. U.S. Attorney Roger Handberg confirmed that Michigan case was connected to a wide-ranging investigation into the Alexander Park, or AP gang, in Tampa. We're told it's named after the community where some of its members grew up. Handberg says one of those shootings led to a break in the case in April 2022. He says a rival gang, member of the AP gang, in the parking lot of Scores Gentlemen's Club on Dale Mabry Highway. 6 days later, we're told a deadly retaliatory shooting happened at a strip mall in the Town and Country area of Tampa. Detectives recovered about 70 bullet casings. We're told that helped connect the dots to several other crimes. Handberg says investigators have now linked the AP gang to robberies in 4 other states, mostly for drugs.
The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Florida announced that 6 members of the Alexander Park gang have been indicted on multiple charges, including racketeering and deletion. The Alexander Park gang, named after a park on North Lois Avenue, was involved in a variety of criminal activities, such as burglaries, robberies, shootings, and drug trafficking. The gang is also accused of committing aggravated assault, home invasion, robbery, and burglary in several states, including Oregon, California, and Michigan. The gang members have been connected to an April 17, 2022 incident at Scores Gentlemen's Club on North Dale Mabry Highway, which resulted in a deletion. Investigators stated that the incident was a result of ongoing tensions between the Alexander Park gang and the Latin Kings. According to Handberg, a member of the Alexander Park gang was deleted by a Latin Kings member during that incident. In response, investigators claim that 6 days later, Alexander Park gang members retaliated by deleting a Latin Kings member in broad daylight. The National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, NIBIN, was used to connect the Alexander Park gang members to multiple criminal activities in Tampa and other states. Special Agent Kirk Howard noted that the Alexander Park gang is no longer active, describing it as a sophisticated, well-financed, and ruthless organization that, until recently, was responsible for numerous violent crimes and disrupted communities across the country for profit. If convicted on all charges, the individuals face a maximum penalty of life imprisonment.
Tonight, 9 suspected gang members are now behind bars. Tampa police detectives arresting these men early this morning after a 3-year-long investigation.
According to Police Chief Brian Dugan, they're members of the 200 Scudda gang and responsible for numerous crimes across the country, including witness tampering, identity theft, credit card fraud, and much more.
Stupid boy, you ain't gonna take that.
The gang members include rappers who wrote songs that describe shootings, snitches, and the absence of fear of law enforcement.
Detectives were able to use their music videos, which they posted on YouTube, to connect them to several crimes. This investigation started after the 2016 17-year-old at the Red Roof Inn on Bush Boulevard. Joshua Green, in this surveillance picture wearing a Scudda Gang t-shirt, is the suspected.
Overall, the members of this gang have been hell-bent on committing serious crimes.
The chief says this investigation is far from over and may be more arrests to come.
The term Scudda is a slang expression meaning let's get it. And according to Tampa police, it refers to making money by any means necessary. This is precisely what the 200 Scudda gang was allegedly doing, as authorities claim its members engaged in a range of activities, including racketeering, identity theft, credit card fraud, illegal firearm purchases, witness intimidation, and drug distribution, stretching from Hillsborough County to Georgia. Following a 2-year investigation, Tampa Police Chief Brian Duggan announced on Tuesday that 9 individuals had been arrested, with additional arrests expected. According to police, the gang's fraudulent activities affected up to 100 victims, and members appeared to operate without fear of apprehension, even using a rap label in Georgia to boast about their actions and their disregard for the law. Chief Duggan stated that this apparent sense of invulnerability among gang members would soon come to an end as more arrests were made. The gang has been linked to a 2016 incident involving the deletion of a 17-year-old during a shootout at a motel on Bush Boulevard, as well as a gang-related feud in April 2017 that resulted in the shooting of 2 rival gang members in Sulphur Springs. Another shooting in May 2017 led investigators to uncover the extent of the gang's activities. The investigation initially focused on what seemed to be a routine drug deal, but soon revealed a more extensive network of fraud and other criminal operations. According to police spokesman Steve Hegarty, the gang members used personal information and credit card numbers obtained online to carry out various financial scams. Additionally, police discovered connections to previous incidents where witnesses had been intimidated, leading to shortened prison sentences for some individuals involved. Officer Steve Monforti of the Tampa Police Department's Violent Crime Bureau explained that in several cases, witnesses had been pressured not to testify, resulting in reduced consequences for those implicated. One shooting victim had to relocate to another state due to intimidation. Among the cases newly linked to the gang is that of Kelly Stacy Jr., a 17-year-old who was deleted during an October 30, 2016 incident. According to court records, Stacy and a friend attempted to purchase $300 worth of smoke using counterfeit $100 bills. The situation escalated, and Stacy was inadvertently deleted by his friend. Investigators later identified members of the 200 Scudda gang as being involved in the drug deal at the hotel, leading to third-degree deletion charges against Joshua Damian Green, 32, for his role in the events that culminated in Stacy's deletion. The quality of the gang's rap videos, according to Officer Chris Skull, indicated the success of their financial schemes, with an increase in production value reflecting their growing revenue over the years. Special Agent in Charge Mark Brutnell of the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's Tampa office noted that the gang had been determined to carry out serious criminal activities, but the recent arrests represented significant progress in addressing these issues.
These are the 5 gang members that Orlando police have arrested in an operation they're calling Operation Hot Wheels. Now, investigators tell us these guys stole cars from neighborhoods, used them to commit crimes all over the state of Florida, and then they brought stolen guns right here to Central Florida communities. According to Mills court papers, Orlando police detectives have connected him and other gang members to car thefts involving 25 law enforcement agencies all across the state. They say this picture from Mills' Instagram account shows him standing next to one of 3 cars that they say was stolen from a dealership in Merritt Island. Detectives say this shot from his Instagram shows him next to a white Chevy Camaro, one of 4 cars stolen in Hillsborough County.
Bail out, bail out.
The Volusia County Sheriff's Office helped locate Mills last year after investigators say he stole a Ford Mustang from a dealership in Palm Coast.
Get your hands up! Watch him in now, watch it, Batman!
He was apprehended hiding in someone's swimming pool, but he bonded out of jail 20 days later. In all, Orlando police say Mills and the other 5 already in custody are responsible for nearly $2 million in stolen property, 59 stolen vehicles, and 19 stolen firearms.
5 gang members from Central Florida have been arrested after a 2-year investigation revealed their involvement in nearly $2 million worth of thefts across the state, according to the Orlando Police Department. Detective Mike Glathern explained the gang's method. They would steal a car in Orlando, drive it to another city, and use it to rob car dealerships. They'd steal a car from Orlando and then travel in groups of 4, 5, or 6 to commit the thefts, Glathern said. Court documents link Mills and other gang members to car thefts in at least 25 different law enforcement jurisdictions throughout Florida. Investigators cited a photo posted on Mills' Instagram, where he is seen standing next to one of 3 cars stolen from a Merritt Island dealership. Another post shows him next to a white Chevrolet Camaro, one of 4 cars stolen from a Hillsborough County dealership. Last year, the Volusia County Sheriff's Office helped track down Mills after he allegedly stole a Ford Mustang from a dealership in Palm Coast. He was found hiding in a pool in DeLand, but was released on bail 20 days later. In total, the Orlando Police Department reports that Mills and the other 5 arrested suspects are responsible for $2 million in stolen property, 59 stolen vehicles, and 19 stolen firearms.
6 o'clock, October 8th, Orlando police evacuate Mall at Millennia after people hear gunshots coming from the food court area. Officers arrest 19-year-olds Trayvon Graham and Joshua Holder and charge them both with attempted first-degree. According to Holder's arrest warrant, one of their intended targets was 20-year-old Jaquavia Smith, known better in rap music circles as Glock 9. His social media handle includes a reference to AFNF. This 20-year-old Javari Walker is the biggest name associated with the 438. He's better known on the music scene as Hot Boy, and his handle includes a 438. Attorneys for both Smith and Walker deny they're a leader or a member of a street gang. Smith's attorney says he's had no involvement in any of the shootings other than being shot at. Walker's attorney says 438 is not a gang. It's a state road that runs through the Pine Hills communities.
The Orange County Sheriff's Office held a news conference on Friday to provide details on a 9-month investigation conducted by the Metropolitan Bureau of Investigation into gang activity within Orange County. Dubbed Operation X-Force, the investigation began in October as tensions between 2 rival gangs, the Army and 438, escalated. Investigators revealed that the conflict was fueled by disputes over music, women, and territory. Sheriff Munna explained that the Army gang operates out of the Mercy Drive area, while the 438 gang is based in the Silver Star Road area. This ongoing feud between these gangs has led to over 30 shootings and several across multiple jurisdictions, Munna said. Investigators noted that 4 individuals lost their lives after being caught in the crossfire of these retaliatory shootings. Throughout the investigation, authorities seized 15 firearms, including 2 stolen guns and 2 directly linked to the death of King, according to Stucker. Additionally, 13 auto-series devices capable of converting semi-automatic guns into fully automatic weapons were recovered from the home of Jaquavia Smith, also known as Glock 9. In total, 34 individuals have been arrested as part of the investigation, with 32 facing racketeering charges. A series of drive-by shootings in Central Florida, triggered by the demise of gang member Diane Outsey in May 2021, has led to numerous arrests as part of Operation Drive-By-Buy. Law enforcement uncovered a cycle of retaliation between rival gangs that escalated over 2 years, resulting in multiple shootings and several. Notable incidents include a gun battle at a Winter Haven bowling alley in January 2022 where one person met their demise and others injured, and a series of drive-by shootings that targeted rival gang members throughout 2022 and 2023. The rise in access to firearms and stolen vehicles has contributed to an increase in violence, with law enforcement making several arrests and recovering weapons and drugs during the operation. Despite these efforts, the cycle of gang-related violence has continued to endanger the community. A street gang is under investigation for distributing counterfeit drugs laced with fentanyl, resulting in multiple deletions, Assistant State Attorney Ann Wedge McMillan said. Orange and Osceola State Attorney Andrew Bain announced that a 37-count indictment has led to the dismantling of the gang. 11 individuals have been charged in Operation Dirty 30s with crimes such as deletion and racketeering. Bain stated that the defendants were part of a gang known as Respect, Money Structure, or Everybody K. They're destroying lives, my life, my daughter's life, said Laura Linners, the mother of one of the victims. Evidence photos revealed the gang's alleged operations, which included manufacturing counterfeit drugs designed to mimic common prescriptions. The investigation, which lasted nearly a year, was a joint effort involving the Orange County Sheriff's Office, the Orlando Police Department, and the State Attorney's Office. 13 men have been arrested in connection with a Northwest Jacksonville gang accused of engaging in a range of criminal activities in the area around West 45th Street and Moncrief Road. The arrests are the result of an 18-month collaborative investigation conducted by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement and the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Each individual was charged as a member of the 45th Street Gang, according to arrest reports, and they all reside in Jacksonville. Under Sheriff Frank Mackesy stated that the gang members were involved in drug sales, theft, and conflicts with other criminal groups, creating a sense of fear and instability in the local community. While the authorities believe the gang has been responsible for more severe acts of violence, such as deletions and assaults, Mackesy indicated that these allegations have not yet been substantiated. One of those arrested, 22-year-old Tyrone Curtis Gant, faces additional charges related to a deletion as well as drug and firearm possession. Mackesy noted that the gang operated collectively without a single leader and that some of the suspects were already in custody on other charges. The gang is known to have worn specific colors and used coded hand signals and greetings, but Mackesy did not provide further details.
Murder 46.
This was a part of a long-term investigation into a gang and also into narcotics. And those men now in jail. If found guilty, they could be headed to prison.
Ian Brightman, the leader of a gang organization. Sheriff T.K. Waters explained during a news conference today that the gang members terrorized their Jacksonville community since 2019.
K4T was responsible for repeated acts of violence in this community, including multiple homicides.
JSO's focus was on Brightman and the 6 primary members of his organization. Brightman was arrested in January after a targeted traffic stop. His driver jumped out of the van armed with a knife and was shot and killed by JSO. Brightman's 8-year-old son was with him in the van. He was turned.
Jacksonville Sheriff T.K. Waters, in collaboration with the State Attorney's Office, and ATF, announced the successful outcome of Operation Bright Lights, a 2-month investigation that led to the arrest of the leader and 7 members of the K4T gang. The primary target of this operation was K4T leader Brian Brightman, whose gang has been implicated in multiple acts of violence throughout Jacksonville since 2019. The sheriff reported that K4T was involved in numerous incidents and engaged in narcotics trafficking to fund its activities, distributing significant quantities of drugs across the city. The goal of Operation Bright Lights was to dismantle the organization by removing its leadership, and Sheriff Waters believes that the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office succeeded in this objective. One of the firearms recovered was linked through ballistics evidence to a 2021 incident, highlighting the gang's connection to various crimes. During the investigation, the leader of K4T, Brian Brightman, was apprehended in a targeted traffic stop in Ocean Way. His driver, Eric Thornton, was fatally shot by a Jacksonville officer after brandishing a knife. Brightman's 8-year-old son was present in the vehicle at the time of the arrest. According to Sheriff Waters, the K4T gang had approximately 40 members and was distributing large quantities of drugs. The firearms recovered during the operation were linked to several crime scenes. One Glock pistol was connected to 4 separate incidents, while a rifle was associated with 2 crime scenes from the previous fall. Sheriff Mike Williams announced the arrest of 10 members of Problem Child Entertainment, a group that authorities say portrayed itself as a music collective, but was involved in a series of criminal activities, including robberies, shootings, drug trafficking, and other violent acts. This group is alleged to have been connected to several incidents, including the 2016 drive-by shooting that resulted in the deletion of 22-month-old Aiden McClendon. During a press conference, Sheriff Williams stood alongside a display of those arrested on federal racketeering charges, explaining that the investigation into PC spanned several years and concluded with a final arrest on November 10th. He stated that the group had been responsible for numerous firearm-related incidents over the past 3 years, including multiple acts of violence. Once PC was identified as a violent gang, law enforcement agencies concentrated their efforts on identifying the primary members and dismantling the organization. Authorities linked several members to various violent acts, including the 2016 drive-by incident involving Aiden McClendon and the July incident involving 23-year-old Glenn McNeil Jr. Sheriff Williams revealed that Jacksonville is home to about 40 documented gangs with approximately 800 members. He described PC as a street gang disguised as an entertainment group and declared that their reign of terror has come to an end, emphasizing that the community had endured enough. Among those arrested, Quaim Richardson, 18, faces multiple charges, including those related to Aiden's incident. Henry Hayes, 4, also 18, was previously arrested and charged in connection with the same incident. His older sister, Cynthia, 21, was taken into custody on charges of assisting other gang members by providing them with transportation and getaway vehicles. Sheriff Williams noted that this was a significant breakthrough in the investigation, which allowed authorities to piece together the connections between various members and link them to the organization. Danny Haddon, 20, faces 2 racketeering charges and has been linked to a firearm used in the Jacksonville Beach incident involving McNeil during 4th of July festivities. New evidence presented by prosecutors indicates that other members of the gang had plans to ambush a police officer in his patrol car using an assault-style rifle. However, law enforcement have been monitoring their activities, including social media and communication channels, and gathering intelligence from those already in custody.
Brandon White's mother, Karina, expressed relief at the convictions. She describes how she felt the presence of her 21-year-old son as the trial of members of the Reckless Tigers began at the federal courthouse in Alexandria. Brothers Peter and Tony Lee, along with Young Yu and Joseph Lamborn, were found guilty of numerous federal racketeering charges. Charges against all but Tony Lee. Prosecutors say White was severely beaten by one of the Reckless Tigers in 2018 and had testified against him even after the gang offered him money to keep quiet.
The Reckless Tigers gang, which began operating in Northern Virginia around 2011, was affiliated with the West Side Asian Boys, a larger and well-known street gang from California. The Reckless Tigers initially started in Centerville, Virginia, where they quickly expanded their influence primarily through drug distribution. Their narcotics operations involved distributing drugs. Notably, many of their clients were high school and college students across Northern Virginia. The gang's criminal enterprise extended beyond drug trafficking. Over time, they became known for violent retaliations, often targeting individuals who had outstanding drug debts or were suspected of cooperating with law enforcement. In some instances, gang members engaged in violent acts such as using Molotov cocktails and conducting drive-by shootings. These actions created fear and chaos within the community, particularly in Fairfax, Prince William, and Stafford counties. The gang was implicated in 2 deletions, both of which escalated their criminal notoriety. The first incident took place in 2016 during a house party where a guest was involved in a physical altercation with gang members, leading to his deletion. The second, more high-profile incident occurred in 2019 and involved the deletion of Brandon White, a man who owed a drug debt to a gang member. White had testified against one of the Reckless Tigers in court, defying the gang's threats and bribes to stay silent. Following his testimony, he was abducted and violently attacked by gang members, ultimately leading to his demise in a wooded area. The investigation and subsequent legal proceedings against the Reckless Tigers resulted in 21 individuals pleading guilty to various federal charges. The gang's leaders and members were sentenced to multiple life terms in prison, effectively dismantling the gang's operations.
They're on trial. 3 are implicated in the most serious crimes, including Deshaun Richardson, Martin Hunt, and Xavier Green. Prosecutors say they were involved in 3 in 2015. The gang's turf is in the area of 36th and 37th from Wickham to Madison in Newport News. Prosecutors say they had an ongoing beef with the nearby Walker Village gang from 2015 through 2017. According to the indictment, it was triggered by one of the defendants' gang by the Walker Village gang. The charges include 3 in 2015. Also that year, prosecutors say several members of the 36th Street gang, including Ryan Tabron, followed a Walker Village member home from high school, planning to...
In the case presented, court documents and evidence indicated that the individuals associated with the 36th Street Bang Squad were deeply involved in organized criminal activities, including violent acts and drug trafficking. The charges against them included their roles in multiple deletions and retaliatory shootings. Notably, the deletion of Jada Richardson and Domingo Davis occurred on April 6, 2015, while Dwayne Parker was deleted on March 8, 2015. These acts were part of a broader strategy aimed at confronting rival gangs. According to U.S. Attorney G. Zachary Terwilliger, the 36th Street Bang Squad operated as a structured and dangerous criminal enterprise. The acts of violence committed by the group were intentional and designed to elevate the gang's reputation. The operations were concentrated in Newport News and Hampton, Virginia, where the gang used violence as a tool to assert dominance, protect territory, and retaliate against rivals. Members of the gang earned their standing through violent actions, which included robberies and the trading of illegal firearms and vehicles. The 36th Street Bang Squad also engaged in a practice referred to as op shopping, where members would actively search for rival gang members and carry out violent attacks on sight. Social media platforms like Facebook played a significant role in heightening conflicts, as gang members posted content that taunted rivals and bragged about their activities. often through music videos and posts that boasted about retaliatory acts. Under the leadership of Tabron, the 36th Street Bang Squad planned and executed numerous operations. The gang's primary hubs included Marshall Courts, Seven Oaks Apartments, and Tabron's home in Hampton. The group engaged in prolonged conflicts with several rival gangs in the area, including the Walker Village M Gang, Newsom Park Gang, 44th Street Gang, 9th Street Gang, and Chestnut Gang. The tensions were inflamed by their online presence, which frequently escalated into real-life violence.
Crime alert, and 10 members of a street gang have been indicted by a grand jury. This group is linked to 14 incidents around Denver. Most of them are drive-by shootings. The indictment resulted in 114 federal charges. The group is accused of shooting into homes and cars.
New tonight out of Denver, a grand jury indicted 10 people over 100 felony counts. Follows a 2-year investigation by RAVERN, the Regional Anti-Violence Enforcement Network. The indictment says all 10 are members of a street gang called Few But Plenty, may be part of a series of drive-by shootings of rivals.
After a 2-year investigation by the Regional Anti-Violence Enforcement Network, a Denver grand jury has indicted 10 individuals on 114 felony counts for alleged crimes involving 47 victims. The indictment identifies the individuals as members of a criminal street gang known as FBP, Few But Plenty. These individuals are believed to be responsible for 14 separate incidents involving 47 victims in the Denver metro area, primarily through drive-by shootings targeting rivals, stated Denver District Attorney Beth McCann. The investigation, dubbed Operation Ricochet, due to the large number of drive-by shootings involved and the threat they pose to surrounding communities, has led to this major breakthrough. The Denver District Attorney's Office will prosecute the 10 defendants in Denver District Court.
Prosecutors say 13 members of a violent gang now face over 250 charges. Grand jury indicting the group last month. Investigators say they are part of a criminal street gang that is responsible for 18 shootings, including Commerce City and Denver, and targeted members of rival gangs.
The grand jury has indicted 13 individuals on 255 felony counts following a multi-year investigation by the Regional Anti-Violence Enforcement Network. These individuals face criminal charges from the Denver District Attorney's Office for alleged crimes involving 113 victims. According to the indictment, the defendants are all members of a street gang called 2DS, Too Damn Smooth, Too Damn Self-Made, or Too Damn Styling. They are accused of violating Colorado's Organized Crime Control Act and being involved in 18 shootings, including dangerous drive-by incidents that endangered innocent bystanders. One of these shootings resulted in the demise of Jesus Duran Maldonado in Commerce City on February 26, 2022, while another led to the demise of Christian Carino Salazar in Denver on May 28, 2022. In addition, the defendants face charges of attempted deletion, aggravated motor vehicle theft, assault, menacing, and robbery. These individuals are believed to have shared a common goal of committing violence, primarily targeting rival gangs, to gain notoriety and assert dominance in their neighborhoods. The Regional Anti-Violence Enforcement Network, RAVEN, carried out a multi-agency operation early Tuesday morning, resulting in the arrest of 7 individuals as part of a Colorado Organized Crime Control Act investigation. This 2-year investigation centered on 12 suspects, all members of a criminal organization known as Blitz Gang Official. These suspects, the sole members of the gang, collectively face more than 300 criminal charges related to numerous violent crimes across the Denver metro area. Dubbed Operation Family Ties, the coordinated effort involves SWAT teams from the Aurora Police Department, Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, and Denver Police Department. One suspect barricaded himself inside his home when officers arrived and later met his demise by suicide. In addition to the arrests, officers seized a significant cache of weapons, including 2 fully automatic AR-15 rifles, a Draco AK-47 style assault pistol, 2 silencers, and 9 handguns. 2 of the handguns were equipped with illegal switches or autosears, which convert semi-automatic firearms into fully automatic weapons. Members of
an alleged street gang indicted by a Jeffco grand jury. They're accused of running an organized crime ring for the last decade. All 6 are alleged members of the Gallant Knights Insane gang. Prosecutors say they sold drugs and targeted rival gang members. Jimmy Valenzuela, the alleged leader, and his brother are accused of trying to kill a man at a Lakewood bar last February because they believed he was a snitch.
Insane, GKI, is a long-established gang from West Denver, with roots tracing back to the early 1970s. Originally known as the LaPon Boys, the group was based around West 9th and LaPon. Internal conflicts led to a split, creating two factions, GKI and Inca Boys. The rivalry between these two groups resulted in the indictment of many GKI members and the eventual disappearance of the Inca Boys. Despite these setbacks, GKI grew in influence, especially within the prison system, where they established their own prison car. Today, GKI remains one of Denver's most prominent gangs, despite past indictments. 3 members of the gang were convicted by a Jefferson County jury on charges of organized crime and attempt. The convictions are tied to violent crimes committed in the Metro Denver area and Jefferson County over the past 11 years. 3 brothers were identified as leaders of the GKI gang. This was an extremely violent and highly organized street gang whose members targeted witnesses in Jefferson County for deletion, said District Attorney Pete Weir in the release. Other members of GKI are known to have deleted witnesses they suspected of cooperating with law enforcement. The case involved 4 named victims. The investigation began after the February 2014 arrest of Jimmy and Timmy Valenzuela for the attempted deletion of a man at a Lakewood bar. The brothers believed the victim to be a snitch and shot him in the neck, though he survived the attack. That incident was later incorporated into the grand jury indictment.
Members pleading guilty to 4 separate drive-by shootings in December of 2018. The Attorney General's office says they're all part of the Get Money gang. And one of those shootings targeted a random home. Our video shows someone firing a gun out of the window of a car. Some of those bullets went into a child's room.
Mark Anthony Hatter, a Tucson gang member, has been sentenced to 10 years in prison for his role in a series of drive-by shootings intended to enhance the reputation of the Tucson-based Get Money gang. Alongside Hatter, fellow gang members, including brothers Isaiah Nicole Meza and Israel Xavier Meza, as well as Arabiel Alexis Boyorquez, have pleaded guilty to multiple charges related to these incidents. The Tucson Police Department Gang Unit and the Pima County Sheriff's Department, which connected 4 drive-by shootings in December 2018 to gang-related motives. The first 2 shootings occurred on December 15, 2018, following a Facebook argument between Hatter, the Meza brothers, and 2 victims. The suspects targeted 2 residences believed to be connected to the victims. The first location, on West Virginia Street in Tucson, was unoccupied at the time, and no injuries were reported. The second shooting, just a mile away on West Dakota Street, targeted an occupied home where multiple bullets struck the structure, including one that penetrated a living room window. Although no one was harmed, the family inside was left in fear for their lives. On December 28, 2018, the violence escalated when the Meza brothers shot a 16-year-old boy in the hand during another drive-by shooting, reportedly related to a gang dispute. Facebook messages later revealed the callousness of the suspects, with Hatter asking Israel Meza, "You shot him in the hand," to which Meza responded, "He said I shot him in the chest," with a laughing emoji. The following day, December 29, 2018, a victim reported gunfire outside her Tucson area home. Investigators discovered multiple bullet strikes, including 3 that hit a child's bedroom. A video of this shooting was later found on Hatter's Facebook account, and investigators determined the victim's home was randomly chosen.
We begin tonight with Gilbert police speaking out on a teen violence problem after the community raised concerns about 16-year-old Preston Lord and other recent assaults in that area.
Tonight, police are asking for the public's help in identifying a pack of teens, they say, involved in a robbery near Williamsfield Road and Market Street.
Resolution photos show a group of people involved in what appears to be a fight on August 18th. While police have not officially linked this incident to the so-called Gilbert Goons group, they did mention on their teen violence investigations webpage that they are actively reviewing assault cases involving youth to see if there is any additional information or correlation between incidents in both Gilbert and neighboring communities. Earlier this month, Gilbert Police Chief Michael Solberg wrote in a statement they were made aware of the Gilbert Goons group. Police initially said they did not have cases where the victims or suspects refer to the group. But today, police said recent updates from victims have referred to their alleged assailants as being associated with the group.
At one point, the beatings were every night. But before that fact, before it got that bad, it was more of a 2 to 4 times a weekend, yeah.
That's a lot of beating kids.
Yeah, that's a lot. I don't know how they didn't get tired of beating kids up. Like, I'd get tired at some point. It's like, why am I doing this?
Suspect charged in a December 2022 attack in Mesa has now pled guilty to 2 different counts of aggravated assault. He's 19-year-old Gage Garrison, one of several suspects involved in an assault on a teen victim at a party back on December 17th. Brass knuckles were used in this attack. The state alleging that he's linked to the so-called Gilbert Goons, who are tied to several other teen violence investigations.
Arizona officials are grappling with the rise of youth violence in the wake of a suburban hybrid gang tied to various assaults and a Halloween weekend murder in Queen Creek. The Gilbert Goons, a group of teenagers and young adults who initially bonded as friends in middle and elementary school, have evolved into a group accused of terrorizing the community, culminating in the demise of a 16-year-old in October 2023. The group, described as privileged suburban boys with good grades, sports involvement, and strong community ties, devolved into a gang-like entity influenced by social media platforms like Snapchat. How did a group of well-taken-care-of suburban boys, some with great grades, who played sports, went to church, end up in this hybrid gang? Questioned attorney Billy Tarasio, unaffiliated with the case, but familiar with its broader implications. She pointed to social media as a significant influence, specifically Snapchat. The group's criminal activities reportedly began in 2022, involving assaults across Maricopa County and mischief in public spaces such as parking garages and fast food restaurants. The Goons became infamous for recording videos of underage drinking and violent fights, some involving brass knuckles, and sharing them on Snapchat. One assault victim described the group as rich white kids with big houses and cars paid for by their parents. Thousands of records from the Queen Creek Police Department, obtained through public records requests, reveal how the Goons formed as a social group in Gilbert before evolving into a criminal network. Witnesses described them as a tight-knit friend group whose members would engage in drinking and violence, with female associates often recording fights. Some community members reported feeling unsafe due to the group. One witness claimed her son had been followed by the Goons, leading to a roommate being hospitalized after a violent attack. Fear of the Goons reportedly drove other teens to arm themselves for protection. The Gilbert Goons drew national attention after their alleged involvement in the demise of a 16-year-old during a Halloween party in Queen Creek. On the evening of October 28, 2023, more than 200 teens attended a Halloween costume rager advertised on Snapchat, which promised free alcohol. The party was hosted at the home of 2 siblings who denied knowledge of the alcohol advertisement, but appeared intoxicated when questioned by police. A sophomore at a local high school and basketball player attended the party with friends. At one point, a fight broke out, and a friend of the victim recorded the incident. One of the suspects allegedly demanded the video be deleted. Soon after, the suspect and a group of older boys reportedly followed the victim and his friends, confronting them and escalating the violence. The group allegedly attacked the victim, with suspect punching him and others kicking and beating him until someone declared, "He's out." Witnesses later saw someone climb over the victim and dance on his unconscious body as he lay in the street. Bystanders dragged the victim's body onto nearby property before police arrived. The victim was found in the roadway and rushed to a hospital with life-threatening injuries. He later succumbed to his injuries, sparking a months-long investigation. Social media played a central role in the Gilbert Goons' activities, enabling them to document and share illegal acts, including assaults, underage drinking, and weapons possession. Following the victims, the group allegedly communicated on platforms like Snapchat, fueling rumors and even online vigilantism. One message allegedly sent by the suspect on the night of the victim's demise read, "I got in a fight, a big group fight, and killed a kid." Another suspect reportedly messaged, "I hit a kid. Then they kicked his head in the ground. Then I got word he met his demise so it." 7 suspects, all identified as members of the Gilbert Goons, were charged with first-degree deletion and have pleaded not guilty. Attorney Eric Crocker, representing one of the defendants, argued that the prosecution's classification of the group as a hybrid gang lacks a clear definition under Arizona law. The case has been complicated by the vast amounts of digital and physical evidence involved. The suspects first appeared in court together in August 2024, with their trial scheduled for July 2025. Defense attorneys have expressed concerns about the timeline, citing the complexity of the evidence. The Gilbert Goons case is a stark reminder of the dangers posed by unchecked social media use among teenagers. Tarasio noted that social media platforms like Snapchat contribute to impulsive and often illegal behavior, from sharing explicit images to organizing violent acts. Operation Snake Eyes, a 6-week enforcement initiative, resulted in the arrest of 140 violent fugitives, including 51 gang members. The operation also led to the seizure of 131 firearms, $145,831 in cash, and 3,027 counterfeit Fenty pills, effectively removing dangerous drugs and weapons from Arizona streets. Phoenix Police Department Chief Jerry Williams commended the operation, stating, "I am proud of the men and women of the Phoenix Police Department for their dedication to our community. Investigations like these bring so many partners together to address common crime trends in each of our cities. Working with intelligence-driven information allows us to specifically target those individuals who are responsible for crimes which often result in violence." United States Attorney Michael Bailey echoed these sentiments, emphasizing the collaborative nature of the effort. The success of Operation Snake Eyes is a testament to the hard work and collaborative effort of our law enforcement partners. As prosecutors, we are proud to serve alongside these dedicated men and women, as well as our colleagues at the McCow, in seeking justice against gang members and violent offenders in our state. Operation Snake Eyes serves as a powerful example of what can be accomplished through cooperative law enforcement efforts, delivering a significant blow to gang activity and enhancing public safety in Arizona.
Well, Mike, according to federal prosecutors, members of the 55 Boys street gang were using cell phones to set up drug deals and even sending out mass text messages pushing their product. From there, IRS criminal investigators just simply followed the flow of money.
Since September of 2021, St. Louis Metro Police investigators have had their sights set on getting off the streets of St. Louis.
We know drug sales can have major ripple effects, including robbery, shootings, and violence.
3 years later, Police Chief Robert Tracy believes his department is one step closer to achieving that goal.
St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department and its federal partners did everything possible to dismantle the 55 Boys, a known violent street gang responsible for criminal activity.
Though the 55 Boys may not be a household name to many St. Louisans,
they were both the target of drug-linked shootings as well as the perpetrators of such violence.
Fleming believes the flow of drugs will now be severely impacted by the convictions of 15 members of the 55 Boys, including local rapper Devontae "Jizzlebucks" Lindsay.
The leaders of this gang, Devontae Lindsay, was sentenced earlier this month to 12 years in the Bureau of Prisons, and another, Andre Pearson, received an 11-year sentence.
Devontae Lindsay, 27, and Andre Pearson, 28, were identified by police as the leaders of the 55 Boys, a gang and drug trafficking organization linked to a substantial amount of distribution in South St. Louis. Authorities reported the organization's involvement in various criminal activities tied to drug sales in the area. St. Louis Police Chief Robert Tracy emphasized that the collaboration between local law enforcement and federal agencies played a crucial role in addressing the criminal activities associated with the 55 Boys. During the investigation, authorities seized a variety of assets, including 24 firearms, thousands of Fenty capsules, 2 properties purchased with drug proceeds, the cash value of a 3rd property, 2 vehicles, diamond jewelry including a necklace with roughly 2,500 diamonds and over $120,000 in cash. Lindsay and Pearson formed the 55 Boys by bringing together members from other gangs such as YPG, Young Project Goons, TKO, Team Knockout, The Strip, Pressure Gang, and Cave. Lindsay, who also rapped about the gang's activities and drug distribution, was sentenced to 12 years in prison, while Pearson received an 11-year sentence. The last 2 defendants in the initial phase of the case were sentenced recently, with 5 others previously indicted and all pleading guilty. 4 of those individuals have already been sentenced. Investigators focused on money laundering and tracing the proceeds from drug sales, with co-conspirators using phones to arrange sales and send messages advertising their products. Authorities believe there may be more individuals connected to the case, and the investigation remains ongoing.
Thanks, Valerie. New at 9, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Eastern District of Missouri announcing 34 suspects face federal charges. Authorities say the defendants are part of a group known as the Black Mafia family.
Those indicted include Carl Von Garrett, accused of laundering nearly $1 million of drug proceeds in a 3-month period. Tiffany Tiff BMF Nelson faces money laundering charges. Chad J. Bo Brown, accused of submitting a fraudulent tax form to obtain a PPP loan. Robert Lewis is accused of distributing, being a felon in possession of a firearm. Robert Honest Sims faces a drug charge related to Samir Simpson Bay faces a drug distribution charge related to Jeremy Wheelo Steele, indicted on a drug charge related to. Authorities say cooperation between federal, state, and local authorities was key.
A major roundup of drug mafia suspects by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Tonight, more than 24 of the Metro's biggest suppliers are off the streets. First Alert 4's Russell Kinsall is following this story tonight.
Yeah, Corey, according to federal prosecutors, this was a drug distribution and money laundering operation. One suspect even charged with fraudulently getting a PPP loan during the pandemic. Now, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office, 34 suspects were indicted by grand juries, more than 24 arrested. In court, prosecutors said those arrested were either members of or connected to an organization called the Black Mafia family.
Marshals, federal agents, and local police, a series of arrests were made following multiple grand jury indictments. A total of 34 individuals have been charged in connection with the investigation, most of them within recent weeks. During the arrests and court-approved searches, law enforcement officers recovered significant quantities of drugs, firearms, and large sums of cash. At detention hearings held on Thursday, prosecutors presented the arrested individuals as either members or associates of the Black Mafia family, BMF. According to court filings, the BMF is portrayed as a drug trafficking and money laundering organization that distributes substantial quantities of narcotics in the St. Louis area and beyond. One of the defendants, Chad Brown, refers to himself as the junior boss of the BMF and has discussed the group's drug trafficking activities in multiple videos shared across various social media platforms. U.S. Attorney Sailor A. Fleming highlighted that these indictments and arrests were not solely focused on drug-related activities. Others have been accused of laundering money for the organization or taking advantage of the COVID-19 pandemic to fraudulently obtain thousands of dollars in loans intended for struggling businesses and employees, Fleming said. The case has raised attention due to the significant role social media and digital platforms played in sharing content related to the organization's alleged activities, which have been monetized in some instances.
When it comes to money, I got all kind of play. This video from Kansas City rapper Delio is evidence in a major drug conspiracy case. The rapper's real name is Liddell Smith. Prosecutors say his videos and Instagram posts helped tie together a gang called 246. After watching a home at 45th and Kensington, officials planned a raid involving 200 law enforcement officers. Prosecutors say they found 23 guns along with. They also arrested 20 men.
Yeah. That's easy for us, though.
Prosecutors say David Duncan, known as Deej, discusses forming the gang in this video.
Yeah, that way. The Wabash way, the money way, the gang way.
During the raid, Duncan was allegedly found with 3 guns, including an AK-47. At the home, officials also say they found a stolen Jeep riddled with bullet holes and with live ammunition and casings inside.
In a long-term investigation involving the FBI, Kansas City Police Department, KCPD, and the IRS, arrests were made of individuals allegedly associated with a group known as 246. The investigation uncovered a range of activities including drug distribution, violent incidents, and the group's presence on social media platforms. Several members had been sharing content such as rap videos, Instagram posts, and YouTube uploads that authorities believe were linked to the group. Among the evidence collected was a YouTube video from October 9, 2017, featuring David Duncan, one of the suspects. In the video, Duncan, identified as Heavy Pockets, is seen wearing a hat with the numbers 2.4, 6 and gold and diamond necklaces. Duncan explains the origins of the 246 group, detailing how he and his associates from different neighborhoods 24th, 43rd, and 68th came together under the 246 moniker. Authorities later arrested Duncan during a raid, recovering 3 firearms, cash, and other items of interest from his residence. The investigation also highlighted the alleged involvement of Liddell Smith, a well-known rapper in Kansas City. Smith was believed to be connected to a drug supply network in Kansas during 2017 and 2018, and authorities suspect he fled to Los Angeles after learning of a planned operation. Social media content linked to Smith and other suspects, including Martin Garner, showed references to 246 and depicted firearms and cash. Charging documents described 2 separate incidents of gunfire involving members of 246. In one case, Martin Garner and Sirico Franklin were targeted while traveling in a rental car. The vehicle was later found abandoned with bullet holes, indicating a significant shootout had occurred. Following the incident, videos posted online by Smith and Garner showed them holding weapons, with Garner making threats of retaliation. The investigation into 246 involved extensive surveillance efforts, including undercover operations and the use of pole cameras to monitor key locations. Authorities were able to track the movements of suspects and gather information on potential violent acts. In another shootout on September 9, Roy Franklin was seen on surveillance video transferring guns into a Jeep Cherokee before being involved in gunfire near 35th and Woodland. Witnesses reported seeing a passenger shooting from the vehicle, which was later found damaged and hidden at a Kensington residence. According to confidential sources, the group had been targeting individuals from a rival street gang. Authorities believe Duncan, concerned about a $50,000 contract on his life, called on Franklin and Smith to carry out a deletion of individuals he perceived as threats. During a coordinated raid, authorities found the Jeep and other evidence connected to the group, ultimately leading to the arrests of key members.
Kansas City gang members have been indicted as part of a nationwide sweep by the Department of Justice. The 7 members of the Click Clack gang are charged with conspiracy to distribute crack. 3 of the guns seized from the gang were used in shootings, 1 in a homicide, according to police. The Jackson County prosecutor says eliminating gangs eventually means eliminating.
The investigation focused on the activities of individuals identifying themselves as members of the Click Clack gang, a group whose name is derived from the sound associated with cocking a firearm or racking the slide of a semi-automatic handgun. This association is supported by the number of semi-automatic handguns recovered from the gang, as well as photos and videos of members with firearms. The Click Clack gang primarily operates in a section of Kansas City bordered by 27th Street, Emmanuel Cleaver Boulevard, Jackson Avenue, and the Paseo. Throughout the investigation, law enforcement officers recovered over 20 firearms and various drugs. 3 of the recovered firearms were linked to shootings involving injuries, and 1 was connected to an unsolved deletion case. Several of the firearms were reported stolen, with 1 coming from as far away as Arizona. Additionally, 1 of the recovered firearms had been illegally modified into a sawed-off shotgun. Bifford, a singer who goes by the street name Two Gun Kevy, is featured on at least 1 CD cover where he is depicted with his face covered by a bandana and holding 2 firearms, a polymer-framed semi-automatic handgun with an extended magazine, and a machine pistol. During the execution of a search warrant at a residence on the 3700 block of Wabash Avenue, officers recovered a video camera containing footage that included various individuals showing gang affiliation, the use, sale, and possession of controlled substances, firearm possession, and evidence of collaboration in drug distribution activities. Investigators have provided details regarding the significant law enforcement presence in Charleston, Missouri on Thursday, July 20. Local, state, and federal authorities executed a search warrant at a residence on Locust Street, marking a key moment in a nearly 3-year investigation. During a news conference, Mississippi County Sheriff Britton Farrell confirmed that 6 individuals were taken into custody. Attorney Saylor A. Fleming, those arrested are members of the Just Bout Money, JBM gang, which is based in Charleston. Fleming noted that JBM is believed to be the primary supplier in southeast Missouri. The FBI St. Louis division also reported that other members of the gang were apprehended in Arkansas, Georgia, and North Carolina. All 19 defendants face charges related to conspiracy to distribute and possess controlled substances with intent to distribute. 2 of the individuals charged are identified as the leaders of the JBM gang. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Missouri named Demarcus P. Turner and Jadarius A. McCain as the leaders of the gang. Turner is currently in custody in connection with a July 2022 incident in Sikeston involving the deletion of a woman. Court documents reveal that hundreds of thousands of dollars and significant quantities of drugs have been seized in connection with the investigation. Investigators indicated that the gang received narcotics through various means, including shipments via mail and couriers who traveled to suppliers by plane or car. The court papers explained that the couriers carried suitcases filled with large amounts of drugs, and they were frequently intercepted by authorities. In addition to drug trafficking, JBM members have been linked to multiple incidents of violence, including shootings in southeast Missouri and southern Illinois. Investigators specifically referenced a JBM hosted event on February 19, 2022, during which 2 individuals were deleted and 14 others were injured. Sheriff Farrell emphasized the impact of JBM on the Charleston community, expressing that the gang's drug distribution activities have posed a significant threat to the safety of local residents.
This group started in like 2019, 18, somewhere in that. They were in high school here in town.
Detective Josh Golightly is talking about a criminal street gang in Sikeston known as the Knot Boys, WYHA.
A couple of them are aspiring artists. They say that they're rappers, they make music, and the artwork for their albums are all kind of focused towards the gang. When you start singing or rapping about specific events that we know have happened, I think that kind of changes how that works.
As they track criminal activity tied to members of the Knot Boys, Golightly says they created this chart designed to show the relationship between members, weapons, and crimes committed mainly in Sikeston.
In a coordinated operation in southeast Missouri, authorities arrested 19 individuals as part of a street gang roundup on Thursday morning. Sergeant Devin Wiersham of Sikeston's Department of Public Safety, who led one of the arrest teams, explained that all of the suspects, identified as members of the Knot Boys, share common involvement with illegal activities. These activities include dealing with firearms, drugs, and being associated with incidents of violence. The arrests were part of a planned operation that involved 7 groups of officers, each assigned to apprehend suspects from the list of 25 individuals indicted for gang-related offenses. The legal statute under which these individuals were indicted defines a criminal street gang as a group of more than 5 people who have been continuously involved in criminal activities for more than 5 years. McMillan clarified that those included in the roundup had been directly involved in illegal actions. As the operation unfolded, one group of officers focused on a single house, while the remaining 6 teams simultaneously apprehended other alleged gang members.
In other developing news this morning, Baton Rouge police making an arrest in connection to a deadly shooting that happened earlier this month.
Police say 20-year-old Rashawn Alexander pulled the trigger. Nicholas Williams on Aliquippa Street back on March 5th.
How this happened? Well, Sylvia, Rashawn Alexander, known locally as rapper Hot Boy Do, has been in and out of jail for several years. Prosecutors thought his most recent arrest would have kept him in jail until trial, but that didn't happen. This is video of Rashawn Alexander leaving the East Baton Rouge Parish Prison early Wednesday morning.
The jail let him go.
The problem is, the district attorney says he wasn't supposed to be released.
Apparently, he paid a commercial bond, and no holes were reflected at the prison for whatever reason, and he was able to bond out like anyone else would have.
The 21-year-old rapper has been in parish prison since March of 2023, waiting to stand trial on a charge of second-degree. Baton Rouge police arrested him then, accused of shooting Nicholas Williams. At the time, Alexander was out on bond for other charges. On Tuesday, during a routine motion hearing, Judge Tarvald Smith found no probable cause for one of those charges involving possession of a firearm. For reasons still unclear, there was no longer documentation holding Alexander in jail, and the jail allowed him to post a $260,000 bond and leave.
A months-long investigation into an alleged Baton Rouge-based gang led to the arrest of 5 suspects. Police say the group is a part of the gang, the 60 gang. The 4 suspects were already in jail, or these 4 suspects were already in jail on separate arrest, according to police.
So new tonight, this now former East Baton Rouge prison deputy is behind bars, accused of bringing contraband into the prison. Investigators say they got tipped off about it, so they began monitoring phone calls. They say an inmate was instructing his brother to call a woman. Investigators say that number belonged to this woman here, Tibrecia Gibson.
A months-long investigation into the Baton Rouge-based 60 gang has resulted in the arrests of 4 members, with charges for a 5th individual pending, according to law enforcement officials. Baton Rouge Police Department, BRPD, revealed that members of the 60 gang were arrested on various charges, including narcotics and weapons violations, as well as violent crimes such as deletion. Police had obtained warrants for the suspects, who were already incarcerated due to prior arrests. According to arrest records, members of the gang were offered $10,000 to silence a witness connected to a deletion that Henderson allegedly committed. The 5 suspects reportedly worked together to locate the witness. They discussed the plan extensively, exchanged photos, and plotted to steal a car in order to harm the witness, as described in the arrest report. In a related development, a deputy from the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, a female deputy, was arrested and fired after allegedly leaking information to her inmate boyfriend, a member of the 60 gang. She was charged with malfeasance in office and bringing contraband into a penal institution. The arrest warrant suggests that Gibson's arrest stemmed from the ongoing 60 gang investigation. In August, while monitoring phone calls, the district attorney's investigator overheard a conversation between Dedrick White and his brother, Lance White. They discussed sending Instagram messages to fellow inmate Rashawn Alexander to arrange a contraband exchange. The scheme was foiled when investigators intercepted a video of the handoff on August 19 and recovered drugs and a cell phone. After this incident, White and Alexander were transferred to a jail in East Carroll Parish, though White was later returned to East Baton Rouge. Authorities continued monitoring their calls, eventually identifying Gibson as the person communicating with Alexander. Gibson admitted to investigators that she had been in a relationship with Alexander for several years, and that after his 2024 arrest, he sent her money via cell phone apps. She also admitted to delivering envelopes she had received from Alexander's brother, Rasheen, which contained contraband. Authorities announced that both Rashawn and Rasheen Alexander would also face charges for smuggling contraband into the prison.
A major blow to an alleged theft ring. East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney says several gang members have now been hit with formal charges tied to multiple violent crimes and a number of drug and weapons offenses. Now, this gang is allegedly known as the Bleedas. Baton Rouge police say they're tied to an armed robbery, a couple of them, actually 2 ATM repair technicians. These men are now facing various charges, including 3 counts of armed robbery with a firearm, 1 count of attempted conspiracy to commit armed robbery.
Police say the group robbed ATMs across the parish of more than $300,000, a tactic we are told they learned in Houston and brought it here to Baton Rouge to get large amounts of cash.
They were waiting till the technicians got there and they were able to open up the ATMs and get the money out.
Sergeant Elgene McNeely with the Baton Rouge Police Department says that money was used in other crimes, including recent shootings, robberies, and drug deals. Because of that, several men accused of these crimes are facing an additional charge of criminal street gangs.
Alleged members of the Bleedas gang stood in a Baton Rouge courtroom awaiting their arraignments. The charges also carry criminal street gang enhancements, suggesting that these alleged crimes were committed to further the interests of the Bleedas organization, according to authorities. Among the 6, only 2 had retained legal representation. The Bleedas gang came under police scrutiny after a series of armed robberies, including incidents involving ATM repair technicians, during which nearly $360,000 was stolen. Investigations by the Baton Rouge Police Department and the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office ultimately linked these heists and other criminal activities in the area to the Bleedas gang. Police reports suggest that the Bleedas are aligned with other local gangs like Forgius and YTO. Young is taken over. These groups, marked by red symbols such as blood drops and mahjong tile designs, often share gang signs and hashtags like Bleeda and YTO on social media platforms. Authorities describe the Bleedas as a criminal enterprise based in the Glen Oaks neighborhood of Baton Rouge. One of the indicted defendants, Von Court, is a local rapper known as 40 Glock, according to reports. Investigators say they infiltrated the gang by monitoring members' Instagram posts, where several were seen flashing stacks of $50 bills in the days following the alleged robberies. The investigation into the Bleedas gang also uncovered a violent episode on January 4th, when 6 of its members were shot in a mass shooting at the Urban Meadows apartment complex. Juwan Lee Quinn Alexi met his demise in the attack, which police suspect was linked to ongoing gang disputes. 2 of the indicted men were among the 5 wounded in the shooting, police said. Nearly 3 years ago, city, parish, and state law enforcement officials made headlines with the indictment and arrest of 19 alleged members and associates of the Gardera area Big Money Block Boys street gang. These arrests were part of a significant crackdown involving charges of racketeering and various other crimes, marking the largest gang-related roundup in East Baton Rouge Parish's history. It was also the first major prosecution tied to the Baton Rouge Area Violence Elimination Project, known as BRAVE. The 24-count indictment against the group included serious charges such as attempted second-degree deletion, obstruction of justice, conspiracy, and a range of drug and gun offenses. In January, nearly 3 years after the original indictment and after multiple delays, prosecutors dropped the racketeering charges. The original 19 defendants have since dwindled to 8, including 7 key figures prosecutors label as major players. Several defendants have either pleaded guilty or been dismissed from the case. The remaining 8 defendants will face separate trials. Moore admitted that prosecuting a large racketeering case is challenging, especially with so many defendants involved. He added that funding issues also complicated the process. Public Defender Mike Mitchell echoed those concerns, noting that his office had real financial constraints, making it difficult to manage the large, complex case. State District Judge Trudy White had initially ordered the state to set aside $3 million to pay for court-appointed lawyers for 7 of the defendants. However, the State First Circuit Court of Appeal reversed her decision, calling the amount exorbitant. As a result, White recused herself from the case, which was later reassigned to another judge. In March, the case was stayed once again when officials from the East Baton Rouge Parish Public Defender's Office and the Louisiana Public Defender Board argued there was no funding available for court-appointed attorneys. Judge Jerome Winsberg, who was appointed to oversee the case, reduced the defendants' bail and released those not serving time for unrelated charges. The stay was lifted in November when resources became available to pay the attorneys, and the court ordered prosecutors to simplify the charges further.
For the first time, Congress and local governments allowed the state of Louisiana to use the federal racketeer statute, also known as RICO, prosecuting all suspects alleged to be involved in a gang at once.
Young folks who want to be involved in gangs, guide yourselves accordingly, because the buck stops here. We're no longer playing with you. We're no longer dealing with you. We will start trying you under this RICO statute, trying your entire gangs.
In this case, these 5 men could spend the rest of their lives behind bars for the shooting of Eugene Giroux. It happened on Pennsylvania Avenue in New Roads. Deputies say the victim was shot to 3 different guns back in 2021, and whoever had any involvement in the case will be held accountable.
In one of Louisiana's first convictions under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, RICO, 5 members of the Young and Reckless gang were sentenced to life in prison. The men were found guilty for the demise of Eugene Giroux III on January 21, 2021. The trial concluded on April 12 at the Pointe Coupée courthouse, where an emotional statement from the victim's family was read before the court. According to court documents, the men went to Giroux's home on Pennsylvania Avenue in New Roads, Louisiana, armed with multiple firearms, including an R rifle and 3 9mm pistols. The attack stemmed from an incident earlier that night when Jones' sister nearly met her demise from drugs obtained from the victim. Johnson, also known as Quarter Baby and believed to be the leader of the gang, orchestrated the deletion in retaliation. When the group arrived at Giroux's residence, they shot him 21 times after he answered the door, officials said.
They say call themselves the Motion Boys. Deputies say they found several locations used to hide and distribute all this stuff, the drugs, across the parish. Those 6 are now facing street gang charges and several drug and gun charges.
Deputies, though, are still looking for these 2 suspects in relation to that case. EBRSO says they believe Mitchell Johnson is the leader of the Motion Boys. Deputies say Chedrick Townsend is also involved.
Authorities in East Baton Rouge Parish are on the hunt for 2 suspects after a major drug bust involving a group known as the Motion Boys. According to the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office, a 2-month investigation targeted multiple individuals associated with the group. Investigators identified several locations used by the suspects to hide and distribute drugs throughout the parish, as well as the group's leader, Mitchell Johnson, and several other co-conspirators.
3-count indictment against a West Baltimore gang. Officials say the members terrorized their Edmondson Village neighborhood for years. WJZ is live. Abijoy Burnett is at police headquarters with more on this group that was called the NFL gang. Abijoy.
Hi, Max. Well, federal prosecutors say the 16 men were violent and dangerous and that some allegedly committed in order to maintain their turf. Federal prosecutors unveiled a 33-count indictment against what they described as a brazen criminal gang that devastated their West Baltimore neighborhood. And as many as 5 investigators believe they also used witness intimidation on social media to scare people into silence.
Gang members
threatened and tampered with witnesses, including by outing them on social media.
NFL stands for Normandy, Franklin, and Loudoun streets in the Edmondson Village neighborhood.
This gang had nothing to do with football. NFL actually stands for Normandy, Franklin, and Loudoun, streets passing through Edmondson Village, where the gang spread terror and murder. It was May of 2018 as children prepared to leave the Mary E. Rodman Rec Center in southwest Baltimore when shots rang out near the basketball court, a 16-year-old boy.
It is a war zone, especially when you got guns in the wrong people's hands. My son and my daughter loves to come over here to the rec, and they don't want to come back.
Federal prosecutors have taken decisive action to bring justice to the streets of West Baltimore. On Thursday, they unveiled a 33-count indictment against a gang that has terrorized the Edmondson Village neighborhood for years. The gang, known as the NFL Gang, is accused of operating a long-standing drug distribution ring and is linked to at least 4 deletions and 5 overdoses. 16 individuals have been charged in this 4th superseding indictment. The NFL Gang, named after the streets Normandy, Franklin, and Loudoun in Edmondson Village, has deep roots in the area, with members ranging from 21 to 62 years old. Residents have lived in fear as the gang's violent activities escalated over the years. One longtime resident expressed her frustration, saying, "We had deletions right across from the church. Drug gangs hang out at the corner store. It just keeps happening over and over." Beyond drug trafficking, the gang is also accused of witness intimidation, using social media to threaten and silence those who might speak out. Her added, gang members threatened and tampered with witnesses, including by outing them on social media.
Prosecutors say the charges against the suspects include 18 and 27 attempted murders.
His business was built on violence and shootings of rival gang members and drug dealers, a contract killing in exchange for money.
The gang is known as Triple C. Investigators say it was founded as an alternative to the Black Guerrilla family gang. And according to the indictment, members routinely use social media websites to enhance the gang's status and identify and locate victims. And even when some members were locked up, prosecutors say they used jailhouse telephones to publicize the identities of persons believed to be cooperating with law enforcement to order assaults and enemies of the enterprise. Some of the suspects have a history with police, including Rashad Nesmith. He was charged with attempted. Off-duty police sergeant Isaac Harrington was shot back in 2019. Investigators say that was an attempted robbery.
Well, days after failing to turn himself in, the alleged leader of the notorious Baltimore gang is. Police say he fled hundreds of miles away to Georgia, where he fired at officers during a standoff before turning the gun on himself.
All of it connected to the alleged founder and leader of the Triple C gang here in Baltimore. U.S. Marshals say they tracked down 39-year-old Gary Creek to an apartment in Sandy Springs, just north of Atlanta. While serving a federal arrest warrant, that's when they say Creek started firing at officers before barricading himself inside the apartment with 3 hostages.
So that was scary.
After 3 hours, members of the SWAT team made their way inside and found Creek from a self-inflicted gunshot. Police say no one else was hurt. Creek fled Baltimore last week. He was one of 15 alleged members of the Triple C gang indicted for a slew of crimes connected to a drug-dealing operation in East Baltimore.
Federal prosecutors have indicted 15 alleged members and associates of the Triple C gang in Baltimore, charging them with a range of crimes that include 18 deletions, 27 attempted deletions, carjackings, robberies, assaults, witness intimidation, and the operation of street-level drug distribution shops across East and Northeast Baltimore. These criminal activities took place between 2015 and 2020, according to the 11-count indictment. Attorney for Maryland, Jonathan Lenzner, described Triple C as a violent and organized drug trafficking organization responsible for a staggering amount of criminal activity. Triple C was as organized and savvy as they were violent and relentless, Lenzner said. The indictment outlines that the gang, whose name stands for Cruddy Connive and Crutballs, operated primarily in Baltimore's Darley Park and Orchard Ridge neighborhoods. Here they ran street-level drug distribution networks. In addition to their drug operations, members of Triple C were allegedly involved in numerous violent acts, including the deletion of rival gang members and a spray of carjackings. Authorities say that Creek, the gang's leader, founded Triple C as an alternative to the Black Guerrilla family. Under his leadership, the gang engaged in contract deletions to bolster their standing. Creek is also accused of enforcing attacks on drug traffickers who wish to operate within their territory. The indictment alleges that gang members frequently shared firearms to avoid detection through ballistic evidence, with federal agents seizing 15 weapons as part of the investigation. Social media played a significant role in Triple C's operations. Prosecutors say members used platforms to intimidate rivals and witnesses by posting threats and flaunting the gang's power. They also use social media to communicate within the gang and plan retaliations for violent acts committed against them. The gang further promoted its brand by selling clothing and jewelry with its logo, warning against snitching, and using rap music to reinforce their presence in the streets. The indictment also reveals that many of the gang's members are young, with most under the age of 25. While 14 of the 15 individuals indicted are already in custody, several members have pleaded guilty to earlier charges, with sentences ranging from 3 to 17 years in federal prison. The federal authorities hope that these indictments will significantly disrupt the operations of the Triple C gang and bring some measure of justice to the communities affected by their violent activities.
Attorney General Brian Frosh said the violent gang known as 39 Babies, or the Green Team, had a major presence online.
They made music videos in which members of the gang display numerous firearms and promote acts of violence.
Wednesday, the Attorney General released the names of these 11 defendants who now face hundreds of charges combined. One of the victims was 17-year-old London Stuckey. This is video of the teen sometime before he in 2019. At the time, police were looking for the two people who were seen in the video following him. Police say 39 Babies operated in the 21239 zip code, a northeast Baltimore neighborhood where members lived.
I never heard nothing around here. My aunt was living in that building right there, and she loved it around here.
The Attorney General said the defendants were 19 to 22, now face hundreds of charges.
War on gangs has landed alleged members of a North Side street gang behind bars, and the search is on for one who may have slipped away.
Prosecutors say the gang operated in Baltimore's 21239 zip code, from which it derived its name, the 39 Babies, and it spread mayhem throughout this community. At just 19 years old, Jalen Wise is now a fugitive, with a $5,000 reward being offered for information that leads to his arrest. His 10 fellow gang members are already in custody.
Themselves the 39 Babies gang, and they're accused of at least 10 in North Baltimore. The gang is named for zip code 21239. It's in the area of Lock Raven Boulevard, where most of the members live. State prosecutors have taken down 11 of the members, disrupting what officials have called a wave of violence that changed lives and devastated communities. 2 of the members were just sentenced. One of them, Karan Johnson, pleaded guilty to 2 is set to serve 40 years in jail. Pierre Briggs is also expected to serve 15 years after pleading guilty to gang-related and gun-related charges. 3 more defendants.
11 members of a violent Baltimore gang known as 39 Babies, or Green Team, have been indicted on multiple charges, including participation in a criminal gang, first-degree deletion, assault, and firearm-related offenses. A music video obtained by WJZ features alleged gang members flaunting firearms and appears to have been filmed at a Baltimore elementary school. The video, which had garnered over 460,000 views, has been linked to the indicted members. In his statement, Attorney General Frosh detailed the charges, saying, "Deletion, assault, and carjacking are among the hundreds of charges brought against the members of the 39 Babies organization. These individuals use threats and violence to maintain control of their territory and retaliate against rivals. They flaunted guns and money on social media and in music videos." The investigation into the 39 Babies gang was sparked when ballistics evidence from 2 Baltimore deletions was linked to multiple other crimes, including non-fatal shootings, firearm discharges, carjackings, and other violent acts. Authorities said the gang's primary operation revolved around the distribution, and they utilized violence to secure control over their territory and eliminate adversaries. Tony Crosby, assistant special agent with the ATF, emphasized the seriousness of the gang's actions, stating, "The crimes outlined in this indictment are the kinds that hold communities hostage." The Attorney General's office confirmed that the gang is connected to at least 8 attempted deletions and 4 deletions. One of the victims was 17-year-old London Stuckey, who was fatally deleted in 2019. Baltimore City Police released surveillance footage of Stuckey before his showing him being followed by 2 individuals whom authorities were seeking at the time.
These 8 defendants call themselves the Carry Boys, a drug trafficking organization that operated out of West Baltimore. Officials sharing their identities and mugshots. Take a look. Acting Police Commissioner Rich Worley says back in January of this year, BPD's Group Violence Unit, which is part of the mayor's group violence reduction strategy, began investigating the Carry Boys and their alleged sale of cocaine from Carey Street, a block within the city's long-troubled Sandtown-Winchester community. As a result, these 8 members, ranging in age from 18 to 59, were identified.
And I'm Kelly Swoop. Police in West Baltimore have taken down an alleged drug trafficking organization, indicting 8 members in the process.
As WMAR 2 News' Jeff Hager tells us tonight, they say the Carry Boys fueled violence in one of the city's most dangerous neighborhoods.
Officers in marked police cars are a visible presence here along North Avenue on one of the mean streets of West Baltimore. But it's here in the shadows, along a side street, North Carey Street, where it's alleged the Carry Boys were dealing drugs and death. In January, BPD's Group Violence Unit launched an investigation into the group.
Officers in marked police cars provide a visible presence along North Avenue, one of the tough streets in West Baltimore. However, it was in the shadows of North Carey Street, a nearby side street, where the group known as the Carry Boys allegedly operated, dealing in drugs and orchestrating deletions. According to Acting Baltimore Police Chief Rich Worley, the joint effort in collaboration with regional law enforcement agents resulted in criminal charges against 8 members of the group, ranging in age from 19 to 59. In January, Baltimore Police Department's Group Violence Unit launched an investigation into the Carry Boys following diversion efforts in the Sandtown-Winchester area aimed at guiding traffickers toward a different path. Despite these efforts, the group continued its involvement in violence. Mont's Executive Director Shante Jackson noted, "There is no joy in sending black men to prison, and this group self-selected for focused enforcement attention because of their continued involvement in violence. Over the course of the 5-month investigation, detectives seized 2 firearms, more than 1,100 vials, and 1,500 gel capsules." The investigation didn't stop there. Detectives obtained 11 search warrants for vehicles and residences in Cockeysville, Windsor Mill, Elkridge, and various locations in Baltimore, resulting in a significant breakthrough. 7 firearms, many various large amounts of drugs, and over $200,000 in cash were seized. Statistics reveal that 3 out of 4 deletions in West Baltimore are linked to this group violence.
It was just last August that the Baltimore Police Department arrested Baronet, saying he was the city's #1 trigger puller. At that point, police pinned just one in 2014, but a stern warning from the police commissioner then indicated authorities weren't done yet.
Remember his name. You'll hear it again very soon. This is big news.
Well, today we did. Baronet and 11 other men who called themselves the Trained to Go Gang were indicted 2 weeks ago. Unsealed today, the indictment shows how the feds spent the last several months piecing together a more clear picture of the terror they say TTG inflicted in Baltimore for 6 years. Namely, the murders clustered in West Baltimore, but were also over east and both in the Northwest and Northeast districts. Together, including 3 at once 2 years ago on West Fayette Street.
It also charges that the members of TTG tried to enrich themselves by selling drugs.
Montana Malik Baronet. It was this 21-year-old police say Alfonso Williams on this part of West Lafayette Street 2 years ago. But they say it would be just one life he snuffed out in a neighborhood he suffocated in fear. Earning Baronet the title of Baltimore's #1 trigger puller as a member of the gang Trained to Go, a subset of the BGF. Baronet was one of the top targets of the vaunted War Room strategy, a combination of federal and local resources to develop cases that would stick against the worst of the worst criminals. While detectives were able to connect the dots on that 2014 to get him into custody, police say they are still hoping to hang at least 10 to 12 more on the 21-year-old.
I would love to tell you, but unfortunately that information we can't disclose at this time. Yes.
Police say as part of his gang, Baronet hurt, robbed, and shot people to take what he wanted. He terrorized parts of Sandtown, Pedestal Gardens, and Pennsylvania Avenue. A wrath the commissioner says will soon come to light as his detectives work to close more of his case.
The Trained to Go TTG gang has been described by police and federal authorities as ruthless, carrying out violent acts within their own communities. Now, after years of alleged crimes, the consequences have caught up with them. According to authorities, members of TTG have been involved in a range of criminal activities, including drug distribution, deletions, kidnappings, assaults, robberies, and witness intimidation. They do it to protect turf. They do it to eliminate and intimidate rivals, said U.S. Attorney Stephen Shenning in an interview with the Afro. Shenning also revealed that the gang has been linked to at least 10 deletions over a span of 6 years, including a triple deletion that took place almost 2 years ago. Baltimore Police Commissioner Kevin Davis, speaking at a press conference, described the TTG gang as calculating and cold-blooded, emphasizing that they premeditated their actions. When they leave their homes with guns in their waistbands and execute people on the streets of Baltimore, leaving 45-50 shell casings at a crime scene and think they can get away with it, this is hopefully a message to them, said Commissioner Davis. Law enforcement indicated that TTG often targeted areas close to where they live, primarily in the Sandtown neighborhood of West Baltimore. Each gang member indicted now faces a maximum sentence of life in prison for racketeering and drug conspiracy charges. 5 of the 12 defendants face mandatory life sentences for their involvement in deletions and racketeering. These charges are eligible for the death penalty as federal capital offenses. One of the 5 facing mandatory life sentences is 22-year-old Montana Baronet, also known as Tana or Tanner. Less than a year ago, Baronet was named Baltimore City's public enemy #1 and was identified as the city's top trigger puller by Baltimore police. Baronet is very good at his craft, said Commissioner Davis. His craft is deletion.
A federal indictment unsealed today charges 6 men associated with the gang with 11 shootings and any number of attempted murders. And among those charged is Baltimore rapper Y.G.G. Tay, whose name is Devontae Harrison. According to the indictment, Harrison partnered more than a decade ago with a BGF member and began supplying to street-level drug shops in Baltimore City. And when a customer failed to pay his drug debt, prosecutors say Harrison supplied the BGF member with $10,000 and a gun, which the BGF member used to shoot the man. On another day, prosecutors say defendant Barack Olds shot a drug trafficker while she was pushing her infant daughter in a stroller. The reason? She failed to obtain permission from BGF.
Y.G.G. Tay, or Devontae Harrison, and David Warren, who gained notoriety after beating nearly a dozen attempted charges beginning at the age of 14. This federal indictment details it was Harrison who ordered the hit, Warren and another defendant, Wayne Prince, who attempted to carry out, and Prince and an unindicted co-conspirator who instead McKemmy. In all, this federal indictment now connecting Warren to nearly a dozen attempted and 3 also including the 2018 of the mother and sister of a targeted rival. The women, investigators say, gunned down inside of their home when he couldn't be found.
The Black Guerrilla family is singularly the most significant threat to public safety in Baltimore for the past decade or longer.
A federal indictment unsealed on Monday charges 6 Baltimore men associated with the Black Guerrilla family, BGF, with a series of violent crimes, including 6 deletions, 11 shootings, and several other attempted deletions and robberies. According to former federal prosecutor Thiru Vignaraja, the Black Guerrilla family is the most singular threat to public safety in Baltimore for a decade or longer. Among those charged is Baltimore rapper Y.G.G. Tay, whose real name is Devontae Harrison. The indictment alleges that nearly a decade ago, Harrison partnered with a BGF member and began supplying drugs to street-level drug operations across Baltimore. Harrison is currently serving a 15-year federal prison sentence for previous drug and firearm charges. In a statement, U.S. Attorney Eric L. Barron emphasized the seriousness of the case, saying, "The U.S. Attorney's Office is committed to working with our law enforcement partners to stop gang violence like that alleged in this indictment. Gangs will not be allowed to hold communities hostage through violence and intimidation." The indictment also accuses Harrison of supplying a gang member with a firearm and $10,000, which was used to shoot and delete a man who allegedly owed Harrison money and drugs. Harrison is further accused of hiring a hitman, Warren, to delete someone who had accused him of cooperating with the police. When Warren failed to locate the intended target, he instead deleted the target's mother and sister. On July 3, 2019, prosecutors alleged that another defendant, Olds, shot and deleted a woman while she was pushing her infant daughter in a stroller because she had failed to obtain permission from BGF. These individuals are ruthless, organized, and cunning, often staying 2 steps ahead of law enforcement, said Vignaraja. Their arrests followed the launch of a new violent crime reduction unit in Baltimore aimed at dismantling dangerous groups like the Black Guerrilla family. Vignaraja believes these indictments will have a significant impact on the streets of Baltimore. When they come in with the heavy hammer of sentencing guidelines, it sends a signal that this behavior will not be tolerated.
A 2-year-long investigation, authorities say 12 people have been charged for selling crack cocaine in Roxbury.
The federal investigation was launched in an effort to improve the quality of life for the residents of Orchard Park. The focus of the investigation was on street-level drug dealers who used the development as their base, even though many do not even live there.
All but one of those men charged in this investigation, authorities say, are in the Orchard Park Trailblazers or Vine Forest Street gangs.
And it was good to see a dozen of them taken off and another dozen guns taken off the streets.
The investigation zeroing in on crime taking place in the Orchard Gardens housing development. Authorities say one suspect, Diamond Brito, a member of the Orchard Park Trailblazers gang, sold investigators a dozen guns and
12 men, including 11 alleged members or associates of the Orchard Park Trailblazers and Vine/Forest Street gangs, have been charged in connection with selling drugs in and around Roxbury's Orchard Gardens housing development. Today, federal, state, and local law enforcement officers arrested 8 of the defendants who are accused of distributing within 1,000 feet of a school zone. Raul Williams, also known as Booby, a 26-year-old from Boston and a suspected member of the Orchard Park Trailblazers, was previously charged at the state level. Another individual, Jose Quinones, also known as Julio, a 24-year-old member of the same gang, had been charged with being an alien in possession of a firearm and distributing. He was later deported to the Dominican Republic. During an earlier phase of this ongoing investigation, another gang member, Diamond Brito, was sentenced to 8 years in prison after being charged with gun and drug offenses. Brito, identified as an Orchard Park Trailblazer, sold investigators 12 firearms and then various drugs. This investigation, spanning nearly 2 years, focused on the high levels of crime centered around the Orchard Park development, the largest public housing complex in Roxbury, which sits next to the Orchard Gardens K Pilot School. Much of the criminal activity is attributed to members and associates of the Orchard Park Trailblazers, who are involved in violent feuds with rival gangs across the city. These conflicts have contributed to increased violence in the area. According to court documents, 11 of the 12 defendants are affiliated with either the Orchard Park Trailblazers or the Vine Forest Street Gang. Between October 2015 and May 2017, 3 cooperating witnesses conducted 34 controlled drug purchases from the defendants in or near the housing development.
Dozens of members belonging to Boston's largest and most powerful gang have been arrested. Federal authorities said today members and associates of the Columbia Point Dogs were indicted on drug and gun charges. They say the gang started operating out of the Columbia Point housing project in the Dorchester section of Boston in the 1980s, eventually trafficking drugs from Boston up to Maine.
Which incidents are we talking about?
This operation didn't just dismantle a large-scale drug trafficking network. It focused on individuals who gang prosecutors believe are responsible for much violence in our city.
Over 500 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers carried out a series of arrests and executed more than 30 federal search warrants early this morning as part of a 2-year wiretap investigation known as Operation Rising Tide. This coordinated effort led to the unsealing of 6 federal indictments, charging 48 leaders, members, and associates of the Columbia Point Dogs, CPD, with drug trafficking and firearms offenses. According to court documents, the CPD, also referred to as the Point on the Streets, is recognized as Boston's largest and most influential gang. The organization began in the 1980s in the former Columbia Point housing development, now known as Harbor Point. Over the years, members of the gang expanded their drug trafficking operations throughout Boston and eventually extended their reach into Maine. Investigators allege that the CPD was responsible for distributing large quantities of drugs across Boston and Maine during the investigation. The CPD is also believed to have maintained its dominance in Boston's drug trade through a consistent pattern of violence and intimidation. Members of the gang have been linked to numerous shootings targeting rival gangs over the years. Most notably, within the last 18 months, the CPD has been engaged in a violent conflict with the Greenwood Street Posse and other gangs aligned with Greenwood. This gang war resulted in multiple shootings. During the investigation, law enforcement officers seized 14 firearms, some of which were intercepted after investigators, using court-authorized wiretaps, overheard conversations indicating an imminent attack.
According to DA Anthony Gallooni, this gang is considered the most violent one currently operating in western Massachusetts. The Knox Street Posse is known for trafficking firearms and distributing narcotics throughout western New England, mostly in Hampden County and southern Vermont.
Among the most notable arrests are the Garcia brothers. The Garcia brothers led the Knox Street Posse. After being the focal point of the operation, all are now charged with serious crimes for which they are held by the state's dangerousness statute for a minimum period of 120 days.
And the district DA, that is Anthony Gallooni, formed the Strategic Action Focused Enforcement Team, which operates out of his office. The Strategic Action and Focused Enforcement SAFE Unit was established earlier this year following an investigation of the Knox Street Posse in Springfield, which is considered the most violent gang currently operating in western Massachusetts. The
Hampton District Attorney's Office announced Tuesday that an investigation led by the newly formed SAFE Unit has resulted in the arrest of 15 men for drug trafficking and illegal firearms possession. The SAFE Unit has been investigating the Knox Street Posse, a gang based in Springfield, for several months. According to District Attorney Anthony Gallooni, the Knox Street Posse is considered the most violent gang currently operating in western Massachusetts. Information gathered by investigators revealed that the gang has been involved in ongoing street wars with rival gangs. The group is known for trafficking firearms and distributing narcotics across western New England, with a significant presence in Hampden County and southern Vermont. As a result of the investigation, 15 members and associates of the Knox Street Posse have been arrested over the past several months. 11 of those arrested are being held under the state's dangerousness statute, while one individual is being held on $100,000 cash bail. Among the most notable arrests were the Garcia brothers, identified as leaders of the Knox Street Posse. They are facing serious charges and are being held under the state's dangerousness statute, requiring a minimum 120-day detention.
Federal prosecutors are filing federal charges against more than 40 alleged gang members and their associates. Good afternoon. I'm Paula Eben. Now, the acting United States attorney says that the suspects are all part of the Heath Street gang, which has been operating for years near the Mildred C. Haley apartments in Jamaica Plain. Charges include racketeering conspiracy, drug offenses, firearms offenses, as well as $900,000 worth of COVID fraud and organized retail theft. During this morning's arrest, officers seized more than 60 weapons.
New this morning, 4 Mainers among a group of 41 people facing federal charges for being part of a violent gang in Boston. Amanda LaPointe of Ripley, Jacob Lyford of Milo, Michael St. Pierre out of Dedham, and Kayla Tasker of Dexter, all arrested earlier this week. They are accused of being part of what is known as the Heath Street Gang. Members of the
Breaking news, the U.S. Attorney's Office is holding a news conference right now to announce that more than 40 alleged local gang members have been arrested. Let's listen in.
Court, charging over 40 individuals with racketeering conspiracy, drug offenses, firearms offenses, and financial crimes, including COVID fraud and brazen organized retail theft. The defendants charged today are members and associates of the Heath Street Gang, which, as alleged in the court documents, has been operating for many years in and around the Mildred C. Haley apartments in Jamaica Plain. This morning, nearly 24 members and associates of the Heath Street Gang were arrested, and several other individuals who are in state and federal custody have now been charged in federal court with new offenses.
Over 40 members and associates of the Heath Street Gang in Boston were charged in federal court today with a wide range of crimes, including racketeering conspiracy, drug trafficking, firearms offenses, wire fraud, and financial frauds, such as COVID-related fraud. These charges come after a 2-year investigation into gang violence and criminal activities in Boston. According to court documents, the Heath Street Gang operates primarily out of the Mildred C. Haley Apartments, formerly known as the Bromley Heath Housing Development, which is one of the largest public housing complexes in the greater Boston area. The gang, which formed in the 1980s, is believed to have over 150 members and has historically used violence to maintain its power, territory, and reputation. The gang is accused of engaging in numerous violent acts, including deletions, attempted deletions, and shootings, many of which targeted rival gang members from other Boston-based groups, particularly the Mission Hill Gang and the H-Block Gang. One notable incident occurred in October 2016 when a shooting aimed at rivals in Mission Hill territory resulted in a 9-year-old girl being severely injured. Additionally, a June 2021 deletion was allegedly committed by a juvenile member of the Heath Street Gang in Mission Hills territory. The Heath Street Gang is also accused of recruiting juveniles from the Mildred C. Haley apartments to join their ranks and carry out criminal activities, including shootings. Prospective younger members were allegedly required to commit acts of violence as part of their initiation into the gang. These juveniles were sometimes featured in Heath Street Gang songs or music videos, which the gang used to assert their dominance, boast about violent acts, and threaten rival gangs. In several instances, gang members were associates of assaulted law enforcement officers while they were performing their duties. The gang is also accused of using the Mildred C. Haley apartments as a hub for drug trafficking operations. Over several years, they allegedly built drug distribution networks extending across Massachusetts, Maine, and California. Heath Street members are known to use social media platforms to facilitate their drug sales. They use social media to advertise, negotiate, and arrange drug deals. In addition to their violent and drug-related activities, the Heath Street Gang is also implicated in various financial crimes. This includes an organized retail theft ring that has been stealing merchandise from stores across Massachusetts and New Hampshire since at least 2019. Gang members are also alleged to have engaged in widespread CARES Act loan fraud and unemployment fraud, exploiting financial relief programs during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Maria, the FBI
Law enforcement officials announcing a major bust where they've arrested and charged 6 members of an alleged gang.
Gun violence will not be tolerated.
Federal officials say the 6 men have been charged with racketeering conspiracy, including drug trafficking and attempted. They're part of a group called Exit 8. Police say the gang uses that name since they cover the area right off the I-91 exit. Newer, younger members also go by Honcho, named after a former member killed by a rival gang on Quinnipiac Ave in 2020.
And then they carried that torch, unfortunately the torch of violence.
Chief Carl Jacobson knows many of the men well, especially 24-year-old Donald Alec Jr.
It's just compelling to be here 10 years later after meeting him at his father's home when we solved his father's murder.
After his dad was killed by rival gang members, the chief says Alec Jr. chose the wrong path.
As a result of an investigation into gang-related drug trafficking and related violence in New Haven, a federal grand jury in Bridgeport has returned an indictment charging 6 alleged members and associates of the Exit 8 Street Gang in New Haven with conspiring to engage in a pattern of racketeering activity, including drug trafficking, deletion, and attempted deletion, as well as related offenses. The charges stem from an ongoing investigation into a gang-related conflict in New Haven, focused on violence in areas including the Hill section of the city. The Exit 8 Gang, named after the area accessible via Exit 8 off Interstate 91 in New Haven, has been associated with drug trafficking and multiple violent incidents. According to court documents, members of the Exit 8 Gang have been involved in drug distribution, firearm offenses, and numerous violent acts since June 2018. The group allegedly coordinated and celebrated their criminal activities through text messaging and social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and YouTube. In recent years, younger members of Exit 8 have begun to identify themselves with the term Honcho, in reference to a gang member who was deleted in February 2020. The indictment outlines several acts of violence attributed to Exit 8 members, including multiple attempted deletions and incidents of gunfire targeting rival gang members. Some of the specific allegations include a June 2018 shooting in which 3 people were targeted, several incidents in 2019 and 2021 where gang members reportedly attempted to delete rivals, and a string of violent incidents between April and June 2021, during which Exit 8 members allegedly carried out shootings, resulting in both attempted deletions and deletions. Additionally, in September 2022, Exit 8 members were accused of a fatal shooting involving a rival. Charges filed against the gang members include racketeering conspiracy, with potential sentences of up to 60 years for some individuals and 20 years for others if convicted. Specific defendants also face charges of attempted assault with a dangerous weapon, attempted deletion, unlawful possession of a firearm by a felon, and drug distribution offenses, which carry varying maximum sentences. The investigation reflects ongoing efforts by federal, state, and local law enforcement to address gang-related violence in New Haven.
Waterbury's fiercest gangs is collapsing. Its leader and some other top members are now in prison, most likely for life.
It's a major gang takedown to take back Waterbury neighborhoods.
This case was one of the most complicated that our city has seen.
The FBI has spent 6 years trying to shut down the Brass City Syndicate, called 960. Its leader, Gabriel Pulliam, and associate Julian Scott were convicted last week. For years, the gang has been dealing drugs and running an organized crime ring. In 2018, Pulliam and Scott shot at a group of people, a young mother of 4, and paralyzing a second woman. We were there as a community mourned. The killers now facing life without parole. So are these 4, all in their mid-20s. 2 rival gang members in 2017. This is from that horrifying night. A shaken neighborhood demanded answers.
Say that this is one of the most complicated cases the city of Waterbury has ever seen, because they spent years investigating this violent group known as the 960 Street Gang, and now 2 more members have been convicted. 30-year-old Gabriel Pulliam and 25-year-old Julian Scott were found guilty last week for their participation in the group. They faced racketeering-related charges, including shootings and gang-related offenses. The 2 are now part of 14 total members and associates of the 960 gang who have been convicted since a grand jury indicted them in September 2021.
According to court documents, the gang in question originated in 2008 as a local street gang in Waterbury's Long Hill Projects area. Over time, the group evolved into 1920 before adopting its current name, which is 960. Members of the gang communicate through various channels, including Facebook, phone calls, text messages, and music videos, often using gang symbols and code words to conceal their criminal activities. Several individuals associated with the gang have been convicted for their involvement in violent incidents between 2017 and 2018 in Waterbury. These incidents include a double deletion in 2017 and a shooting in 2018 that resulted in the deletion of a mother of 4 and left another woman paralyzed. To address the gang's involvement in drug trafficking and associated violence, the FBI, ATF, and Waterbury police have collaborated in an ongoing investigation. On September 12, 2021, a federal grand jury in Hartford returned a 36-count indictment against 960 members, including Gabriel Pulliam, Julian Scott, and 14 others. The charges included racketeering, narcotics trafficking, firearm possession, deletion, attempted deletion, assault, and obstruction of justice. Specific incidents highlighted in the indictment include an October 6, 2018 drive-by shooting involving Scott and other gang members targeting rivals. On October 11, 2018, Pulliam, Scott, and other members participated in another drive-by shooting aimed at rival gang members, which tragically resulted in the deletion of 20-year-old Francois Guzman and the paralysis of another individual. A similar drive-by shooting took place on November 18, 2018, where Scott and his associates targeted rivals, resulting in injuries to 2 individuals.
Police have been hard at work behind the scenes, taking down an extremely dangerous gang.
Channel 3 Eyewitness News reporter Eliza Krasinski is joining us now live at the Hartford Police Department with more on how police took down these criminals.
Police say they are part of the Get Money Stepas gang, an incredibly dangerous gang that police say were involved in drug deals, arson, and much more, using illegal weapons and automatic rifles. They're primarily targeted the South End neighborhood of Hartford, but not only that, they've crossed some state lines.
The racketeering case against 13 individuals allegedly involved with the Get Money Stepas, a criminal group, includes accusations of drug trafficking, firearms violations, vehicle thefts, and violence between rival crime groups. One catalyst for the violent incidents may have been the deletion of a memorial dedicated to the leader of a predecessor group, who was deleted in front of his Hartford home in March 2015. According to detectives, the memorial was for Julius Rivera, the leader of the 420 gang, which operated in the Wethersfield Avenue area, including Benton, Elliott, and Bond Streets, as well as Lawrence Street, over a mile away. Rivera's deletion triggered a series of retaliatory acts, including other deletions and violent crimes, eventually leading to the decline of the 420 gang's organizational structure. By 2020, a group of loosely associated friends and neighbors continued using the name 420, but rebranded as Get Money Stepas, GMS, to signify unity with new associates. The reconstituted group engaged in violent activities such as robberies of drug dealers and shootings of rival gang members, as well as acts against uninvolved citizens, aiming to solidify their criminal reputation, according to detectives. One violent incident tied to Rivera's deletion occurred on February 17, 2022, when Christian Feliciano, known as Kiki, was shot 14 times outside a barbershop on Franklin Avenue in Hartford. Feliciano was armed but did not draw his weapon, according to police reports. Detectives indicated that Feliciano had been feuding with an individual known as Gilly, recently released from prison and affiliated with the 420 gang. Feliciano had reportedly kicked over a memorial dedicated to Rivera in front of his former home, which may have contributed to the conflict. Leonardo Laboy, 24, one of the individuals charged with Feliciano's deletion, has Rivera's first name, Julius, tattooed on his forehead. Laboy and co-defendant Juan Perez, 28, are also among those charged in the ongoing racketeering case. Detectives cited evidence from social media posts and rap videos to support the claim that all the defendants in the racketeering case were connected to GMS. One Facebook post attributed to racketeering defendant Gilberto "Gilly" Mendez appears to mock Feliciano following his deletion, accompanied by a link to a music video. According to the investigation, GMS has used professionally produced rap videos, often filmed in multiple locations and costing thousands of dollars, to promote their activities. Further violence against Feliciano's family occurred on February 16, 2023, the day before the first anniversary of his deletion. While visiting his grave in a Bloomfield cemetery, family members were attacked by a group of individuals who pistol-whipped one of the mourners, placing a gun to the back of her head and stealing her cell phone, wallet, and credit cards. Jeremy White, 21, is charged with first-degree robbery, second-degree assault, and other crimes related to this incident and is believed to be the current leader of GMS. Although all the incidents mentioned in the racketeering case have led to arrests, detectives also highlighted a series of retaliatory shootings between GMS and the Orange Street Gang in 2022 and 2023, some of which resulted in deletions. However, these recent incidents have not yet led to arrests.
Police confirming to Channel 2 Action News that they're investigating a break-in at superstar Mariah Carey's house in North Fulton County. We flew News Chopper 2 over that property today. Channel 2 investigative reporter Justin Grace here in the studio.
Yeah, and Justin, this is the type of crime that we've been tracking since last month.
Hey, Candace, we are talking about criminals intentionally targeting celebrity homes here in Metro Atlanta. Last month, Channel 2's Mark Winnie was the first to report about Sandy Springs police investigating gangs targeting celebrities, including a Real Housewives star in Sandy Springs. Now we've learned days after our initial report, criminals hit a home owned by Mariah Carey.
This involves many crimes, an ongoing investigation, and high-profile victims. One of them, Marlo Hampton of Real Housewives of Atlanta fame, who told me she watched on her security system as armed, masked men kicked her door down, making a loud boom.
When I heard the boom, when I heard my nephew scream, and I knew that scream was a scream of fear, my heart dropped.
Real Housewives of Atlanta star Marlo Hampton says she's a real crime victim after the attempted burglary of her Sandy Springs home July 1st that police have now told her is tied to other incidents. She said she went to a panic room, called 911. The suspects who kicked her door and fled, possibly because she yelled. Sandy Springs police were there quickly, and she thanks God.
The latest investigation involves the drug-rich gang, and Willis announced today she is formally bringing RICO charges against 26 alleged gang members.
Yeah, that's right. So officials say these alleged gang members primarily targeted athletes and entertainers around Metro Atlanta, using social media to learn what they had and how to break into their home.
If you thought Fulton was a good county to bring your crime to bring your violence to, you are wrong, and you are going to suffer consequences.
Fulton County District Attorney Fonnie Willis on a 94-page indictment spelling out 220 charges against 26 people alleged to be involved with the drug-rich gang.
They use things like prescription bottles and money symbols, and this is in their jewelry and their tattoos, and we see that present here.
Investigators say the gang started in DeKalb County in 2016, but has branched out across Metro Atlanta, committing crimes like shootings, home invasions, and burglaries. Their 16 targets include Atlanta celebrities, athletes, and influencers who all post their possessions on social media.
They're immediately going to closets. They're immediately going to bedrooms. They know where these high-end items are.
This morning, gang member roundup.
26 alleged gang members indicted following a series of crimes in the Atlanta area targeting high-profile celebrities like Mariah Carey, Atlanta Falcons player Calvin Ridley, and Real Housewives star Marlo Hampton. The members allegedly targeting people who displayed their wealth on social media, like Real Housewives star Marlo Hampton, known for showing off designer clothes and handbags.
My thing is shopping.
Mariah Carey's Atlanta area home broken into this summer after posting pictures of herself on vacation. Authorities say this isn't just a celebrity problem. Everyone should be careful when posting on social media.
In a major crackdown on gang activity in Atlanta, a grand jury has indicted 26 individuals allegedly connected to the notorious Drug Rich gang. The gang members face a laundry list of charges, including attempted murder, armed robbery, home invasion, kidnapping, and burglary. According to Fulton County District Attorney Bonnie Willis, who revealed the indictment at a press conference, Drug Rich has been targeting celebrities and influencers in the Atlanta area, making them their prime victims over the past 2 years. Among the high-profile victims mentioned in the 94-page indictment are pop icon Mariah Carey, Real Housewives of Atlanta star Marlo Hampton, Atlanta Falcons wide receiver Calvin Ridley, Atlanta United goalkeeper Brad Guzin, and influencer Brittany Mealy. The gang's criminal activities weren't limited to just the rich and famous. They also terrorized everyday residents of Atlanta with carjackings, armed robberies, and even shootings inside homes. One of the most shocking incidents occurred in June when 4 members of Drug Rich allegedly broke into Mariah Carey's mansion in Sandy Springs. Fortunately, she was on vacation at the time, but the suspects reportedly made off with clothing and shoes. Just days later, 2 masked men reportedly broke into Marlo Hampton's home while she was there with her 2 young nephews. Thankfully, they were able to hide in a panic room, and the suspects fled without taking anything. The indictment also outlines even more violent crimes committed by the gang, including a July 4th home invasion in which 5 members shot a man inside a Sandy Springs home. Another horrifying incident in October 2021 involved 10 gang members breaking into a home and forcing a young girl out of the shower at gunpoint, threatening to and her mother. At the press conference, Dia Willis emphasized that while most of the defendants are already in custody, a few remain at large. Those in custody will soon face bond hearings, but given the severity of the charges, it's unlikely they'll be granted bail. All 26 individuals have been charged with violating Georgia's RICO Act.
Also tonight, prosecutors slapped 30 gang members with racketeering charges as police exposed one of the most violent street gangs in Oklahoma City.
With more than 230 members, the Warritos make up the 3rd largest Hispanic gang here in the city. Michael Konopasek spent time on their turf. He joins us now with more. Michael?
Well, Kelly and Amanda, police say there are 2 areas in Oklahoma City that are controlled by the gang. People living in those areas are in terror. They say the gangsters are in complete control. What they say goes, crime. It's a daily occurrence.
The gangbangers have taken over.
Jerry Scott has lived in southeast Oklahoma City for 37 years. She says her neighborhood has gotten worse and worse.
I don't know how to explain it. It's just they're in control. When the dark comes, you get in the house.
She's talking about the Warritos, a gang with ties to Juarez, Mexico, one of the deadliest cities in the world. They have been terrorizing OKC neighborhoods since the 1970s. Here are some of the recent perps facing new charges. Police say these men and their gang buddies have saturated 2 distinct areas of OKC. The first, the top of the town, from Southeast 15th to Southeast 25th and South High Avenue to I-35. The second, West Side, from Northwest 16th to Main and I-44 to Western.
Prosecutors have charged 30 alleged gang members with racketeering as authorities uncovered one of Oklahoma City's most violent street gangs. With over 230 members, the Warritos are considered the 3rd largest Hispanic gang in the city. According to police, the gang has taken control of 2 areas in Oklahoma City, leaving residents in fear. Locals say the gang dominates the streets, and crime has become an everyday occurrence. The gang members have taken over, said Jerry Scott, a longtime resident of southeast Oklahoma City. Scott, who has lived in the neighborhood for 37 years, said the situation has steadily deteriorated. I don't know how else to explain it, Scott said. They're in control. When it gets dark, you stay inside. The Uaritos, with ties to Juarez, Mexico, one of the most dangerous cities in the world, have been terrorizing Oklahoma City neighborhoods since the 1970s. Police report that the gang has saturated two specific areas of the city. The first is an area known as Top of the Town, which extends from Southeast 15th Street to Southeast 25th Street and from South High Avenue to I-35. The second is the West Side, spanning from Northwest 16th Street to Main Street and from I-44 to Western Avenue. "I saw a crime just the other day," said James Hudson, another Southeast Oklahoma City resident. "I saw something go down. Not far from a playground near South High Avenue in the Top of the Town area, graffiti marking Uaritos territory is visible. They did a drive-by just around the corner," said Carla Rodriguez, another resident. Residents in these gang-controlled areas believe the Uaritos hold more power than the police. Scott shared how life has worsened in the neighborhood, revealing that her car has been stolen twice recently. Just days ago, someone siphoned gas from a truck. Police initiated their investigation into the Uaritos in October 2011 after a surge in drive-by shootings.
Breaking news from this morning, an FBI raid at a Milwaukee home is connected to a federal fraud and for hire investigation. Federal agents used flashbangs this morning to draw a man from a home near 72nd and Silver Spring. News Chopper 12 flew over the scene, showing him taken into custody. Tonight, we've learned he is one of 27 people named in a 43-count indictment unsealed today. The people charged are accused of being associated with a Milwaukee street gang called the Wild 100s. The indictment accuses some of using millions of dollars from fake pandemic unemployment assistance applications to buy guns, drugs, and even kill a man for money.
The indictment alleges that the defendants conspired to commit mail fraud by submitting false applications for unemployment benefits, including those under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, to defraud the Department of Labor. They reportedly used these unlawfully obtained federal funds, amounting to millions of dollars, for purchases like firearms, drugs, luxury items, vacations, and to arrange a hire. The indictment charges Ronell Bowman and Ronnie Jackson with arranging a deletion for hire, using interstate commerce to facilitate this plan between March 15 and April 5, 2021. Count 28 further charges these defendants with using and discharging a firearm in the deletion for hire, resulting in a deletion. Each of these counts could result in a life sentence, with count 28 carrying a mandatory minimum of 10 years.
Now, and Milwaukee police call them the Wild 100.
Chief Ed Flynn says the group is responsible for an extraordinary number of stolen vehicles.
Well, Mike and Courtney, the chief says that gang is responsible for causing and terrorizing all parts of Milwaukee, all over the city. It was right here where he says one of those gang members caused a terrible accident last night.
Tonight, police announced a dozen arrests tied to a violent gang on the city's north side.
It follows a very violent start to the year already. 1,550 stolen cars. And just last night, police say a teen stole a car, led officers on a chase, and then crashed into several other cars.
That boy is affiliated with a street gang known as the Wild 100s. Coincidentally, the target of morning police and federal raids in Milwaukee, leading to nearly a dozen arrests.
We're talking about a gang that is a loose group of criminal crews that run under the same banner and are creating havoc in all parts of the city of Milwaukee.
District 4 Captain Vic Beecher says the gang attracts young people through social media.
Milwaukee Police Chief Ed Flynn announced a major breakthrough with the arrest of multiple members of the Wild 100s gang in a coordinated operation. 11 individuals were detained, adding to over 100 gang-related arrests since September. Chief Flynn highlighted that the gang, which originated on Chicago's South Side, is responsible for significant crimes in Milwaukee, including car thefts, armed robberies, drug trafficking, and violent incidents such as shootings. During the operation, Milwaukee police recovered firearms, drugs, and cash. The sweep builds on previous efforts, as police have filed 180 felony charges and seized over 35 firearms since the operation began. Chief Flynn emphasized the goal of diminishing the gang's influence in the community by systematically prosecuting involved individuals. The gang's crimes have also led to tragic events, including the demise of a 13-month who was shot when the accused dealer allegedly fired into the wrong home. Another incident involved a gang member fatally shot during a robbery attempt, underscoring the community impact of the gang's violence. Chief Flynn reinforced the commitment to erode the gang's influence by building robust cases against those arrested, aiming to protect Milwaukee neighborhoods.
Shootings, beatings, and robberies tonight. 15 members of a Milwaukee street gang are charged with a series of violent crimes.
Well, Terry, this is only the second time since 2002 that these kind of charges have been filed in Milwaukee County. Tonight, 7 of the 15 suspects charged are in jail for years of organized criminal activity. We've been covering the crimes over a span of 6 years, including this shooting at a park back in 2007 and the beating of this teenager in rival gang colors near a gas station in August of 2009. Milwaukee County prosecutors say they've charged some of the top members of the Menace of Destruction. Authorities say they're among gang that has strong ties to Milwaukee, and they've been committing violent crimes in 4 states and all across Wisconsin.
Where you have a tightly knit organization, it's very difficult to penetrate that organization because of family ties, because of unique cultural issues that tie them together.
Menace of Destruction, also known as MOD, posted pictures and rap videos on YouTube and MySpace, showing off symbols and sporting their color red.
The Menace of Destruction, a Wisconsin-based Hmong gang, was involved in a range of violent and criminal activities, including shootings, stabbings, aggravated assaults, burglaries, and perjury over a 6-year period across 5 states, as detailed in a 67-page criminal complaint from the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office. The charges, based on years of investigation and information from 6 confidential informants, name 15 members and associates of the gang. This long-term investigation included collaboration between local police in Wisconsin and Minnesota, as well as state and federal agents, and follows a federal indictment of 17 gang members on related charges. The complaint outlines the gang's history, rituals, and use of symbols such as the color red and the 5-dot symbol. Violent initiation practices, drug trafficking, auto theft, burglary, and a protracted turf war with the Asian Crips, which involved over 120 shootings and acts of violence from 2004 to 2009, were among the gang's activities. Key figures within the gang held titles like Shots, short for shot caller, who directed operations. The complaint also recounts incidents of weapon theft, including the 2007 burglary of a Pepin County shop where 34 firearms were stolen. Federal immigration agents have arrested 14 men in Milwaukee as part of a targeted operation aimed at suspected foreign-born gang members. On Monday, authorities detained 13 Mexican nationals and 1 individual from the Dominican Republic. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, reported that the Mexican nationals are linked to the Mexican Posse street gang and are now in ICE custody awaiting deportation proceedings. The individual from the Dominican Republic had previously been deported and is now facing federal charges for illegally re-entering the United States. According to ICE, all 14 individuals have criminal histories in the U.S., with past arrests and convictions for offenses including narcotics trafficking, property damage, and theft.
This is a case that has impact. People in the city of Richmond and the Bay Area should not live in fear.
Today, the FBI and Richmond police announced the names of these suspects, 4 behind bars, 2 still at large, linked to a violent criminal network called the Manor Boys. These are photos of associates of the Manor Boys. The task force is investigating and say more arrests will be happening soon.
I give a warning to the other ones out there that you better start looking over your shoulder because they're coming.
The Manor Boys' crime spree spans throughout the Bay Area, in Richmond, El Sobrante, Oakland, Antioch, and Sacramento. The Manor Boys' violent crime spree dating back to July of 2016 to the most recent, May of this year. Discovery Bay woman Alexandria Schweitzer in Richmond. A 15-year-old was arrested this week in connection with her, and 21-year-old Terry Watts is still at large.
2 ongoing investigations led by Richmond Police, the Contra Costa District Attorney's Office, and the FBI San Francisco office have resulted in the arrests of half a dozen individuals connected to a series of crimes, including authorities announced on Wednesday. During a press conference at Richmond Police Headquarters, officials provided limited details regarding Operation Crescent Moon and Operation Big Houses, both focused on the Manor Boys gang. These investigations were initiated by the FBI's Safe Streets Task Force and supported by the District Attorney's Office. The recent arrests follow months of legal challenges, including 2 failed prosecutions involving alleged Manor Boys members who were implicated in a Vallejo deletion and at least 2 conspiracies to commit. Law enforcement officials executed warrants at 7 locations in Richmond, El Sobrante, Antioch, Oakland, and Sacramento. Among those arrested were 18-year-old Darrell Vaughn Waters, suspected of illegal firearms possession, 18-year-old David Jones, arrested on charges of robbery and illegal firearms possession, and 23-year-old Deshaun Ford, taken into custody for a probation violation. Officers recovered 3 firearms, along with cash, narcotics, and evidence of credit card fraud, bringing the total number of seized guns to 11. In May, an alleged Manor Boys associate, DeJuan Rice, was indicted on 2 counts of deletion. Authorities say the Manor Boys gang has been active in West Contra Costa for several years and has ongoing rivalries with other Richmond area gangs such as Deep Sea, Easter Hill, and North Richmond gangs. The gang's name comes from an apartment complex in Richmond formerly called Kennedy Manor, now known as Monterey Pine. In 2016, 5 alleged members of the Manor Boys were indicted on charges of conspiracy, deletion, and weapons offenses following a wiretap investigation. However, the case faced setbacks, with 3 defendants being acquitted of conspiracy and deletion charges against 2 others being dismissed after it was revealed that a prosecutor had misled grand jurors with an inaccurate question.
Several members of a violent gang are off the streets and in custody this evening. Authorities say they are connected to a string of crimes throughout the Bay Area. Elizabeth Cook is here with more. Liz?
Veronica, state and federal authorities announced they arrested 8 members of the Broad Day gang based in Antioch and Pittsburgh. Here's a look at the suspects. These 8 men are facing several charges, including burglary, pimping, and murder. Court records show the Broad Day gang is linked to at least 5 homicides in Contra Costa County. Authorities arrested Giovante Boyd in Jacksonville, Mississippi. Boyd is wanted for the shooting death of an innocent bystander during a drive-by shooting back in March in Pittsburgh.
Authorities announced on Wednesday that 8 members of a violent East Bay gang have been taken off the streets and are now in custody. These arrests mark the culmination of a 16-month investigation known as Operation Clap It Out, during which state and federal officials linked the suspects to a string of criminal activities across the region. The individuals arrested are members of the Broad Daylight Clap Gang, which is based in Antioch and Pittsburgh. They are now facing a range of charges, including burglary, involvement in multiple acts of violence. According to court records, the gang has been connected to at least 5 deletions in Contra Costa County. The Broad Daylight Clap Gang is known to have a violent rivalry with a North Richmond gang that has recently expanded into Antioch. The recent arrests of Darnell Keon Lash, Azel Tommy Jenkins, Daside Kenya Lash, Devancia Quest Sumblin, Lester Gene Curry, Larry Darnell Goins Jr., and Javel Cooksey, along with a suspect arrested in Mississippi, represent what District Attorney Diana Beckton called a significant and successful disruption to the gang's criminal operations. One of the suspects, Giovante Boyd, was apprehended in Mississippi and is wanted in connection with a fatal shooting that claimed the life of an innocent bystander during a drive-by in Pittsburgh this past March. Police believe Boyd had aimed at another individual, suspecting they had stolen a gun from him, but instead struck 47-year-old Andrew Moffett, who was not involved in the altercation. At least 17 individuals with ties to 2 rival East Oakland gangs were arrested during coordinated raids on Thursday, part of a larger effort by law enforcement to curb the surge in gun violence. According to authorities, those arrested are members or associates of 2 notorious and violent gangs operating in the areas near 65th and 69th Avenues, as confirmed by Police Chief Sean Went during a news conference. The pre-dawn raids took place in Oakland, as well as in Stockton, Berkeley, and San Leandro. Law enforcement officers served 22 search warrants, resulting in the arrest of 17 suspects, including 2 women, and the seizure of 6 weapons. Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf, speaking on the operation, stated, "It does not bring us joy to send young men to prison, but it is a necessary part of our absolute determination to bring an end to gun violence in Oakland." The news conference was held at the Acts Full Gospel Church, situated between the territories of the rival gangs. Went noted that several gang members involved in the ongoing feud had their funeral services at the church. The tensions between the 2 gangs date back decades, but the conflict intensified in September when Frank Denard, a 21-year-old high-ranking member of the 69th Avenue gang, was fatally shot while driving in the 1300 block of 76th Avenue. His brother, Lawrence Denard, along with another individual, Willie Torrance, both alleged members of the 69th Avenue gang, were previously convicted of the 2011 fatal shooting of 3-year-old Carlos Nava. The child was struck by gunfire intended for two 65th Avenue gang members who were wounded in the incident. Since 2012, Oakland police and community outreach workers have been pulling gang members aside to warn them of the consequences of continued violence. We warned members of these gangs that continuing to engage in violence would result in arrests, said Wendt. We meant it when we said that. We will not tolerate gun violence in this city. This large-scale operation marks another step in the ongoing effort to bring peace to Oakland streets and hold those responsible for the violence accountable.
More than 50 people arrested, 40 guns confiscated. Today, investigators detailed a deadly gang war that spanned from Oakland to Antioch. They uncovered it during the investigation of a homicide last year.
When Donze Young was found shot to death in Antioch last August, it led to the unraveling of a war between rival gangs, Case, the other ENT.
Young was an active Case criminal street gang member, and he was targeted by a rival criminal street gang known as ENT.
As for Young's murder, police arrested 7 people, among them a father and son, 42-year-old Charles Bolden and his 19-year-old son of the same name. Authorities say the investigation has led to the arrests or identities of 36 adults and 15 juveniles from both gangs who are.
And Antioch Police Chief Brooks said that in addition to the 40 weapons that were confiscated, they took at least 15 more off the group that were ghost guns, and those are weapons that do not have serial numbers, so they're hard for police to trace when used in crimes. Now, both groups.
Police in Oakland and Antioch announced the arrests of suspected gang members involved in an ongoing feud that authorities say is fueling much of the gun violence affecting both cities. The arrests come after a long-term investigation, which began with a probe into the execution-style deletion of 20-year-old Donze Young on Tioga Passway in Antioch on August 29 of last year. According to Antioch police, Young, a member of Oakland's Case gang, was fatally shot by a member of the rival Oakland Ent gang. This initial deletion led to a long-term investigation into the violence surrounding this gang feud, said Antioch Police Chief Tammany Brooks during a Thursday news conference. Detectives quickly realized that Young's deletion was just the tip of the iceberg in a larger conflict between the Ent and K Street gangs. The investigation revealed that several other gang-related deletions, attempted deletions, and shootings occurred before and after Young's passing, as violence escalated between the two gangs. 3 men were charged in connection with Young's passing: Charles Bolden, Sr., 42, Charles Bolden, Jr., 19, and DeMarco Lindsay, 19. The charges include enhancements for lying in wait, making the suspects eligible for life sentences without parole or the death penalty. In addition to Young's case, the investigation linked 2 other attempted deletions to the case and Ent gang rivalry. On February 27, a man was shot in broad daylight with a semi-automatic firearm at an Antioch gas station on Lone Tree Way. Then on March 9, a targeted drive-by shooting on Aspen Way in Antioch left 2 men critically injured, with their vehicle riddled with bullets. 4 men were arrested in connection with the Aspen Way shooting: Trent Allen, 20, Keyshawn McGee, 22, Terrion Pugh, 20, and Eric Wyndham, 21. Pugh was also charged in the Lone Tree Way shooting, which sparked reprisal shootings in Oakland later that same night, according to police. Operation Windstar, which involved 27 law enforcement agencies from across California and Nevada, is believed to have a significant impact on reducing violent crime in both Oakland and Antioch. We believe this operation is going to have a substantial effect on violent crime in Oakland, said Oakland Police Chief LeRon Armstrong. He also expressed regret, stating, "I owe this city an apology that the gang violence which started in Oakland has now spread to the city of Antioch." State authorities have charged members of a Trenton gang with multiple violent crimes, including deletion, attempted deletion, and drug trafficking. The gang, known as the Get Money Boys, GMB, allegedly controlled the drug trade in a local neighborhood and was involved in several shootings over several months. Charles Willis, 27, the reputed leader of GMB, and 9 other gang members face various charges. In total, 16 members and associates of GMB are accused of distributing in the area around the Oakland Street apartments. The joint investigation by New Jersey State Police led to the seizure of multiple firearms and nearly 20,000 doses, stamped with labels such as Fruit Loops, according to Gruel. One of the most serious charges involves Davian Fenderson, 25, who is accused of carrying out the demise of 32-year-old Michael Barnes on Willis's orders. Fenderson allegedly shot Barnes on Commonwealth Avenue in Trenton on December 27. Authorities arrested Willis and his girlfriend, 24-year-old Daisha Brown, at their Willingboro residence earlier this month. During the arrest, officers discovered a defaced firearm accessible to a toddler and an illegal high-capacity magazine. As a convicted felon, Willis now faces additional charges related to firearm possession and child endangerment. In a separate incident in February, GMB members allegedly fired at two men, causing their car to crash, and then shot at a police officer who witnessed the shooting. The officer, part of the New Jersey State Police Crime Suppression Central Unit Task Force, was in an unmarked vehicle when he saw the shooting near West State Street and Parkside Avenue. The suspects fired at the officer during a pursuit. Shaquan Hearns, 21, Dion Battle, 28, and Yohanan Salter, 28, have been charged with deletion of the officer. Additionally, Hearns faces charges for a separate incident last September, in which he allegedly shot a man in the leg on Lamberton Street. Another violent episode occurred when 5 GMB members reportedly opened fire on a group of people on Sanhicken Drive, injuring 2 men. Those charged in connection with the shooting include Willis, David Williams, 28, Sean Anderson, 21, Zaire Jackson, 24, and an associate known as Hood.
Their arrival executing an arrest warrant, and a mother unleashing her fury, barring police from entering her Bronx apartment to arrest her son, a suspected gang member. She put up a fight. After minutes of tense moments in a small vestibule, police were able to get control and get her 20-year-old son in handcuffs. They say he's a member of the 1300 crew.
You're probably the most violent guys that are still out on the street.
Police say the 1300 crew is responsible for wreaking havoc throughout the North Bronx, on the streets, in subways, and in NYCHA. Surveillance video shows a drive-by shooting, and it's not just gun violence. The crew allegedly went on a 6-day robbery spree 2 years ago. They brutally attacked an off-duty officer while he was on a morning jog.
I have so much pain, in my back, my shoulder, my head.
Pix 11 News spoke exclusively with Officer Mohammed Chaudhry after he was released from the hospital.
According to the prosecution, alleged members and associates of the 1300 gang, reportedly named after 213th Street, have been charged in connection with 6 shooting incidents that occurred in or near the Gun Hill section of the Bronx between April and September 2022. Defendants Kyshawn Johnson, Dreshawn Lucas, and Omari Connor were arraigned before Bronx Supreme Court Justice Seth Steed in late July and early August 2024. All 3 were remanded into custody, with Johnson and Lucas scheduled to appear in court again on October 4th, 2024, and Connor due back on August 15th, 2024. The nearly 2-year investigation, led by the Bronx District Attorney's Office, Violent Criminal Enterprise Bureau, and the NYPD Criminal Enterprise Investigation Section, began following the violent robbery of off-duty NYPD officer Mohammed Chaudhry, who was jogging in Castle Hill. During the robbery, Chaudhry was knocked to the ground, punched, and kicked, resulting in severe injuries that left him hospitalized for over 2 weeks and caused life-altering harm. 3 defendants in the 1300 indictment, Jordan Sewell, Ashawn Logan, and Matthew Pinnock, have pleaded guilty to first-degree assault and additional charges related to the Chaudhry incident. 2 have been sentenced to 7 years in prison, while the third awaits sentencing. On April 12, 2022, one of the defendants reportedly boarded an MTA bus and pursued a group of people after disembarking. He allegedly fired multiple shots on East 225th Street, one of which struck a 15-year-old girl in the leg as she exited the bus. On April 26, 2022, another defendant allegedly opened fire in front of 3491 Baychester Avenue, a heavily crowded area, while chasing an individual. On August 17, 2022, 13 defendants allegedly gathered at Matthew Pinnock's residence before executing 2 drive-by shootings targeting rival gang members. 4 of them reportedly left the home around midnight carrying at least 3 firearms and fired multiple shots at a residence on Fish Avenue. They then proceeded to another location on Crotona Avenue and fired at an individual. On August 23, 2022, 5 defendants, suspecting a rival gang member was near one of their homes, allegedly went to Grote Street and Prospect Avenue and opened fire. During the incident, a 73-year-old woman was struck by a bullet in her left leg while sitting outside a building, resulting in life-altering injuries. On August 27, 2022, one defendant attended a candlelight vigil at the Parkside houses for a deletion victim. Upon spotting a rival gang member, he allegedly fired a shot at the individual and then discarded his firearm. He was apprehended after a foot pursuit. According to the indictment, on September 9, 2022, Garcia, 19, allegedly engaged in an altercation with a rival gang member after school. He then reportedly communicated with Johnson, 23, and instructed him to retrieve a firearm from an apartment on Fish Avenue. Garcia allegedly took the firearm from Johnson, proceeded to the Pelham Parkway houses, and fired at least 13 shots into a crowd, injuring 4 innocent bystanders.
Deputy Chief Brian McGee prepares the dozens of officers heading out to arrest 5 suspected members of the Chico gang. 9 others in the 13-man indictment are already in custody.
They're a violent gang. Their main motive is just to benefit the gang by violence.
We ride along with the squad to the Wagner houses, where they go into one apartment building with shields and rams. As some detectives keep lookout at the exits, the squad steps into the dark stairwell.
There are so many good people out of the Wagner houses, and it's the small amount of people doing the crime and the violence out there.
Back at the precinct, police also bring in 20-year-old Melvin Williams, who was arrested at the second search warrant location.
Innocent, like that's all I gotta do, something innocent.
This case.
More than a dozen individuals associated with an East Harlem street gang have been indicted as part of a major operation conducted by law enforcement and prosecutors. The group, identified as the Chico Gang, has been accused of engaging in violent activities in 2 public housing projects since 2018. The indictment, which charges 13 members, alleges involvement in a series of violent acts, including shootings that injured a dozen people, among them 4 uninvolved bystanders, including a 12-year-old child. According to the indictments, the Chico Gang operated primarily out of the Wagner Houses public housing complex, with much of the violence directed at a rival group in the nearby Jefferson houses. Prosecutors indicated that the gang members used digital platforms such as Snapchat and Instagram to communicate and plan their activities, often coordinating crimes through Facebook group chats and instant messages. In one instance, an alleged gang member mentioned in a March 2019 chat that somebody is going to get hurt Saturday. In another message from January 2020, a gang member expressed a willingness to provide firearms to anyone interested in committing acts of violence. These messages were part of the evidence presented in the indictment. The documents also reveal that on July 19, 2023, a suspect, Melvin Williams, posted on Snapchat about feeling targeted, stating, "A lot of people are hitting the ground. I think my time is next because I can't run, but believe I will defend myself." Shortly afterward, he shared a video showing himself holding a silver firearm to another person's head. Williams, 20, was among those arraigned on charges of conspiracy, attempted deletion, attempted assault, and weapons possession.
Violent gangs are behind bars this afternoon. They're part of the Trinitarios gang that calls itself OED, which stands for Own Every Dollar. They operated mainly in Washington Heights, also in the Bronx, though, and Queens. They're charged with narcotics conspiracy. The defendants are accused of selling several drugs, including fentanyl.
High-end heists, a shootout with police, and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of watches and jewelry. It's all in a night's work for alleged members of the OED, or Own Every Dollar crew, which may be an affiliate of the notorious Trinitarios gangs. Now time may be running out for them. A high-end armed robbery ring believed to be responsible for a dozen or more heists throughout the city were at it again outside the trendy Pergola restaurant in the Nomad district about 1:15 Monday morning. Police say officers tried to pull over 2 suspects in a BMW they believed was connected to previous crimes, but the driver sped up and jumped a curb.
Federal prosecutors in New York have unsealed a superseding indictment charging more than a dozen members of the criminal street gang Own Every Dollar, OD, with racketeering, robbery, illegal firearms possession, narcotics trafficking, and both attempted and completed deletions. OED, a subset of the Trinitarios gang, operated mainly in and around Washington Heights, as well as in the Bronx and Queens. The group is known for its use of extreme violence to further its criminal activities. The 16 defendants are accused of distributing various narcotics. The indictment alleges that they sold drugs to undercover police officers and were frequently apprehended with narcotics prepackaged for sale. Many of the defendants allegedly posted photos and videos of themselves holding firearms on social media. The indictment links the group to at least 5 fatal incidents, including the deletion of 41-year-old Anthony Savarese on February 7, 2022, the deletions of 30-year-old Richard Dominguez and Israel Cabrera on July 2, 2020, the deletion of 22-year-old Nicholas Vargas Jr. on August 31, 2018, and the deletion of Hector Cruz on April 14, 2019. The document details numerous acts of violence committed by the defendants. On August 31, 2018, Jawinky Nunez Jr. allegedly shot Nicholas Vargas near 232nd Street in the Bronx. On April 14, 2019, Nunez Jr. and Jaron Pina allegedly targeted Hector Cruz near West 135th Street in Manhattan. On January 24, 2020, Nunez Jr., Brian Hernandez, Wilson Mendez, Stephen Joaquin, and Argenis Tavares allegedly fired at a rival group member near West 136th Street in Manhattan. In February 2020, Nunez Jr., Pina, Hernandez, and Tavares allegedly fired at rival gang members near West 138th Street in Manhattan. On March 30, 2020, Nunez Jr. and Joaquin allegedly fired at a rival narcotics dealer near West 180th Street in Manhattan. On April 18, 2020, Nunez Sir allegedly fired at an individual near Audubon Avenue in Manhattan. Other incidents include a shooting on May 13, 2020, when Justin Diza and Mendez allegedly fired at rival narcotics dealers near West 184th Street in Manhattan. On May 15, 2020, Hernandez allegedly fired at a rival narcotics dealer near West 188th Street in Manhattan. On June 26, 2020, Nunez Jr., Joaquin, and Ari Rodriguez Rosario allegedly fired at rival narcotics dealers during a high-speed pursuit in Washington Heights. On July 2, 2020, Nunez Jr., Hernandez, and Rodriguez Rosario allegedly deleted Richard Dominguez and Israel Cabrera near Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx. On July 5, 2020, Nunez Jr. and Rodriguez Rosario allegedly fired at rival gang members near West 136th Street in Manhattan. On July 18, 2020, Nunez Jr. allegedly fired at an individual near West 183rd Street in Manhattan. On October 22, 2020, Nunez Jr. and Diza allegedly fired at individuals near Valentine Avenue in the Bronx. On December 13, 2020, Mendez allegedly committed an armed robbery near West 188th Street in Manhattan. The indictment further describes incidents involving internal conflicts and violent confrontations between the gang members themselves. For example, on August 12, 2021, Hugo Rodriguez and Nunez Sir allegedly engaged in a shootout with each other near West 183rd Street in Manhattan. In August 2021, Diza allegedly committed an armed robbery near West 28th Street in Manhattan. In September 2021, Diza allegedly attempted another armed robbery near the FDR Drive in Manhattan and, along with Mendez, committed an armed robbery in Queens. On January 22, 2022, Nunez Jr., Pina, Trejo, and Joaquin allegedly committed an armed robbery and fired shots at several individuals near West 145th Street in Manhattan. On February 7, 2022, Mayovan X Rodriguez allegedly deleted Anthony Savarese near Andrews Avenue in the Bronx. On February 14, 2022, Hugo Rodriguez and Trejo allegedly committed an armed robbery near West 203rd Street in Manhattan. Finally, on March 4, 2022, Nunez Jr. and Trejo allegedly fired at a rival gang member near Dyckman Street in Manhattan.